Chapter 2708. At this moment Yi Fei had two choices. The first choice was to gather everyone's strength to resist the siege of the experts from the ancient kingdoms. The second choice was to use his own strength to resist these experts and let Di Fan and the others go to rescue Wu Yue. This was also the sinister part of the ancient kingdom's princes. Now, it all depends on your choice, Yemo. If you choose to live, your friends will die. If you choose to die, your friends will live. No, I have a third choice. We will live together, and you will die together. Yi Fei coldly interrupted the prince's words. He suddenly turned his head and said to Ji Feng and the others, "You guys go and save Wu Yue. Leave the rest to me." Dong. As he spoke, Yi Fei's figure had already disappeared from where he stood. Suddenly, he appeared in front of an ancient kingdom expert who had attacked him. With a point of his finger, a dazzling sword light had already condensed into a terrifying destructive sword finger. The ancient kingdom expert's eyes widened in shock as a bloody hole appeared on his forehead. He had actually been killed by a single point of Yi Fei's finger. This scene also shocked the ancient kingdom princes who had attacked. They had only heard that Yi Fei had been able to kill Ouyang Changkong and contend against Lu Mohan because he had relied on the divine cauldron treasure on his body. Now that they had entered the Great Void, Yi Fei's divine cauldron had been sealed and could not be used. They had originally thought that killing Yi Fei would be an easy task. However, they had not expected that Yi Fei actually possessed spatial mystique. No wonder Lu Mohan would offer a reward to us. Don't let this person leave the Great Void alive. A few ancient kingdom princes exchanged glances and saw the murderous intent in each other's eyes. Then, they actually attacked at the same time, charging towards Yi Fei furiously. Their ancient kingdom experts were not intimidated by Yi Fei's spatial mystique. Instead, they relied on their advantage in numbers and suddenly formed a powerful military formation. As the formation activated, a terrifying killing intent erupted like a volcano and blasted towards Yi Fei. Only without waiting for these people to attack, another pitch-black cauldron appeared behind Yi Fei. With a loud roar, it smashed towards these experts, scaring them into retreating. There were even some princes who looked at Yi Fei in disbelief. This is impossible. His cauldron is clearly sealed. How can he still use it? With a whoosh, the princes of the ancient kingdoms scattered. After all, they had heard rumors that Yi Fei had relied on this divine cauldron to block Lu Mohan's Sky Emperor mystic ability. They didn't want to personally bear the might of such a treasure. Yi Fei also took advantage of this opportunity to suddenly raise the divine cauldron and charge in front of another prince of an ancient kingdom. That prince of an ancient kingdom immediately revealed a look of anger and fear. Suddenly, he ignited all of his strength and punched the divine cauldron. Boom crack! The collision between the fist and the divine cauldron caused ripples to appear in the surrounding space. However, what made the prince of the ancient nation ecstatic was that the divine cauldron that he had feared hadn't caused him any serious injuries. Instead, it had only caused his fist to become a bloody mess. His prince of the ancient nation, who had retreated, revealed a look of confusion. What's going on? The divine cauldron in his hand doesn't seem as powerful as the rumors say. I understand now. This cauldron is fake. The real divine cauldron was already sealed by the ancient god when it entered the Great Void. Yemo, you actually dared to trick us. Seeing that his fist was only injured, the injured prince was the first to come to his senses. When he thought about how all of them had been scared off by Yi Fei's fake cauldron and how he had been injured by Yi Fei in his fear, the prince of the ancient nation was so angry that his hair started to burn. His powerful bloodline power and the mystic ability of the ancient nation's royal family allowed his other fist to bring along a destructive gust of wind as it smashed towards the divine cauldron. Yi Fei's gaze also turned cold at this moment. Just as the prince of the ancient nation unleashed his fist, 9 cauldrons suddenly appeared behind Yi Fei. This was the Spectre Tribe's 9 cauldrons heaven-suppressing art. It was also an extremely powerful Great Void mystic ability that Yi Fei had mastered. It was like 9 ancient stars that continuously blasted forward. The explosive power was like that of a ghostly god, causing terrifying cracks to appear in the void of the Great Void. That, the prince of the ancient nation who had attacked had a look of intense fear on his face. He had never imagined that Yi Fei would have 9 cauldrons instead of 1. Clang. When the 9 soul cauldrons connected, they immediately formed a terrifying, ghostly destructive force. With a loud bang, they smashed through the prince of the ancient nation's chest. Finally, they blasted through his body, causing a terrifying mist of blood to erupt in the air. With one blow, a prince of the ancient nation had failed to kill Yi Fei. Instead, he had been killed by Yi Fei in front of so many people. The princes of the ancient nation couldn't help but take in a breath of cold air. Only now did they realize that this ordinary disciple of the Rising Dragon sect, who was hated by Lu Mohan and abandoned by Zhang Wangu, seemed to be exuding a dangerous aura. However, the deed had already been done. Because of this, a prince of the ancient nation had died in battle. How could the princes of the ancient nation let this matter rest so easily? Everyone, surround him for this prince. The rest of you, capture all of his friends. Seeing that Yi Fei was difficult to deal with, a prince actually planned to capture Di Fan and the others to threaten Yi Fei. When they heard the order, hundreds of young Sir Gods immediately charged towards Di Fan, Fu Renjie, and the others with murderous looks on their faces. These warriors belonged to the ancient countries, or the sects and family clans of the ancient countries. Naturally, they couldn't disobey the orders of the princes. Hence, they started to attack. Yemo, you won't be able to escape this time even if you have wings. If you don't want your friends to die, just stand there and let us kill them. One of the princes laughed maniacally. At this moment, hundreds of young divine lords from the 3 great ancient nations had joined forces. Under the circumstances where everyone's treasures and bloodlines had been sealed, they could even kill a lone peerless genius. Yi Fei couldn't help but take in a deep breath of cold air when he saw such a lineup. Then, a surge of sword intent ignited in his heart. You all can suck up to Lu Mohan and take my life. However, you all shouldn't implicate my friends. Di Fan, you all leave first. I'll cover you from behind. Yi Fei shouted loudly. The whistling sword intent suddenly turned into a huge Taiji sword diagram that suppressed the heavens and earth. It swept towards the approaching divine lords. However, there were just too many divine lords from the ancient nations. The combined radiance of the divine powers of hundreds of divine lords instantly engulfed Yi Fei's sword light. Just like that, just as Yi Fei thought that he would be exhausted to death by the prince's overwhelming numbers, 4 powerful figures suddenly appeared beside him. They were Ji Feng, Wu Yu, Di Fan, and Bai Shizhong. Chapter 2709. The most shocking thing was that Wu Yu had chosen the most dangerous path to cover the retreat. Di Fan and Bai Shizhong were surprised. Wu Yu said proudly, "Don't look at me like that. Although I may be timid at times, I'm not a coward who is afraid of death." "Alright, Wu Yu, since you're not afraid of death, let's go all out and have a massacre." Yi Fei knew that there was no longer any leeway to turn the situation around. The only thing left for him was to fight. Only by fighting until these people were afraid would they have a chance to survive. Di Fan, Wu Yu, and Bai Shizhong also understood this. Cold killing intent appeared on their bodies at the same time. Di Fan was the first to make a move. His body was surrounded by a vast purple aura, as if he was a saint walking between heaven and earth. A powerful saint's fist was thrown out, as if he wanted to shatter the world with one punch. Bai Shizhong's divine inscriptions were vast. He also used a sword. Although his sword wasn't as strong as Yi Fei's, Bai Shizhong had walked another path. That was a path that combined the sword and divine inscriptions. At this moment, his sword light had evolved into a unique sword-based divine inscriptions. When he suddenly attacked, he had already beheaded an ancient country's divine sovereign. No, the most terrifying one was still Yi Fei. Although he couldn't use the indestructible sword token, his sword Dao had already reached the level where he didn't have a sword in his hand, but he had a sword in his heart. To a true swordsman, anything outside of heaven and earth could be used as a sword. Here at this moment, Yi Fei displayed his sword Dao to his heart's content. The Taiji Slaughter sword brought along a terrifying bloody hurricane that tore through heaven and earth. The Taiji Desolation sword used the annihilation mystique to block the attacks from the ancient country's warriors. 2. However, Yi Fei roared loudly. He took a few steps forward, and a resplendent sword light exploded from the ground. It shot out in all directions, and the ancient country's warriors who were close to him were sent flying while vomiting blood. After that, a purple-gold radiance spread out from Yi Fei's body. He opened the purple-gold Taiji, and the radiance spread out, blocking the sneak attacks from the ancient country's princes. The ancient country's princes were shocked, and they couldn't help but think of retreating. But soon, 3 cold voices came from behind them. Everyone, don't be afraid. In order to protect his friends, they definitely won't dodge our mystique. Everyone, launch a long-range attack. Let's first exhaust their Xian energy, then take their heads. Remember, the person who killed you is the Crown Prince of the Wu Kingdom. The Crown Prince of the Yu. The Crown Prince of Han. Seeing that the situation was clear, 3 young Sir Gods with extraordinary auras walked out from the hundreds of warriors that besieged them. They were the leaders of the 3 great ancient countries, and also the crown princes of their respective ancient countries. This time, it was also because they wanted to befriend Lu Mohan. At the same time, they also wanted to seize Yi Fei's divine cauldron that could resist Lu Mohan. That was why they suddenly attacked and wanted to kill Yi Fei. Hearing the 3 of them, Yi Fei's eyes instantly became as sharp as swords. He scanned the 3 of them and said coldly, "Very well, I'll remember you. Spare your lives, and I'll take them sooner or later." Kill, Taiji Calamity Sword. Yi Fei suddenly drew his sword and slashed at the nearest Crown Prince of Wu. Although his sword beam was strong, the people around Crown Prince of Wu reacted even faster. They used their mystiques, forming dozens of mystique light pillars that shattered Yi Fei's sword beam. Crown Prince of Wu sneered and suddenly punched out. His fist carried a terrifying claw shadow that tore through the void. He suddenly slapped Yi Fei with his claw, causing ripples to appear on Yi Fei's ancient god golden body. Crown Prince of Yu's eyes lit up when he saw this. He said proudly, "This golden body's defense is pretty good. Yimo, since you have offended Lu Mohan, you will die sooner or later. If you are willing to teach me all the mystiques you have learned, I will be merciful and not kill your friends. What do you think? The mystiques are on me. If you want them, come and take them." Yi Fei sneered when he heard this. He knew that even if he handed over the mystiques, these high and mighty crown princes of the ancient kingdoms would not let them off. However, if this continued, no matter how strong he, Di Fan, Wu Yu, and Bai Shi were, they would not be able to withstand the repeated attacks of hundreds of ancient kingdoms' divine lords. Chuling and Bai Yanran clearly knew this. Therefore, while Yi Fei and the other 3 were covering the rear, they had already rushed through the bronze door with the rest of the family Jiwang. This scene also caused the Crown Prince of Han to fly into a rage. He shouted angrily at his subordinates, "A bunch of good-for-nothings. Even 2 women can't stop them. What are you guys still standing there for? Everyone, destroy the bronze and silver doors with all your might." Although doing so would cause many people from the 3 great ancient kingdoms to lose their qualifications to enter the Great Void, as long as they killed Yi Fei, the 3 great ancient kingdoms would obtain Lu Mohan's promise and the strong support of the imperial sky. It could be said that the 3 great ancient kingdoms had gained a huge advantage. While ordering people to destroy the bronze and silver doors, the crown princes of the 3 great ancient kingdoms rushed through the silver door first. This way they could let their subordinates kill Yi Fei and obtain Lu Mohan's promise. At the same time, they could continue to train in the Great Void. It could be said that they were killing two birds with one stone. Seeing the actions of the crown princes of the three great ancient kingdoms, Di Fan and Ji Feng's expressions changed. If the bronze and silver doors were destroyed, they would be trapped in an endless sea of people. In the end, only death would await them. Wu Yu immediately cursed. This damned crown prince of an ancient kingdom is too sinister and shameless. Even if your grandpa Wu dies and turns into a malicious spirit, I will not let you off. Ha ha ha, don't worry, you won't become malicious spirit. The crown prince has already instructed that when we kill you, we must destroy your souls so that you won't even have the chance to become ghosts. Although the crown princes of the great ancient kingdoms had left, they had all agreed to leave behind a crown prince to command the many ancient kingdoms' ancient warriors to continue attacking. They must not give Yi Fei and the others any time to breathe. Bai Shizhong's expression immediately changed. He shook his head sadly and said, Wu Yu, stop cursing. It's good that they're dead. At least I don't have to worry that my sister will be kidnapped by some devil. After saying that, Bai Shizhong looked at Yi Fei with incomparable joy. Yi Fei's expression couldn't help but darken. But soon, he heard a huge explosion in the distance. That was the sound of the bronze door being destroyed. If they continued to fight, the five of them might really be exhausted to death by the three great ancient kingdoms. Yi Fei's expression changed. He suddenly made a crazy decision. Di Fan, Ji Feng, break out of the encirclement with Bai Shizhong and Wu Yu. Hurry and rush through the silver door before it's destroyed. Chapter 27:10. As if he understood their thoughts, Yi Fei's face suddenly revealed a maniacal smile. The three great ancient countries' tactic of taking turns is indeed powerful. However, they still missed a point. This point is my chance of survival. Yi Fei's eyes were already looking in a certain direction. Ji Feng followed Yi Fei's gaze and his heart suddenly trembled. Because Yi Fei was actually looking at the golden door. Yi Fei, have you really decided? Di Fan, Wu Yu, and Bai Shizhong all looked at Yi Fei in shock. One must know that what was being tested inside was the ancient emperor's array spirit. However, other than the golden door, Yi Fei couldn't think of any other way to break out. After all, if he didn't lead these ancient countries' warriors to the golden door, then Di Fan and the other three wouldn't have a chance to break out. While, if the stalemate continued and the three great ancient countries destroyed the silver door's stone tablet, then Di Fan and the others would really have no chance of survival. Everyone, take care. Boom! Boom! Yi Fei suddenly pushed Ji Feng and the other three towards the silver door. At the same time, Yi Fei himself rushed towards the golden door. The three great ancient countries' warriors were instantly in an uproar. After all, they had received the order to kill Yi Fei. Di Fan and the other three were secondary. At this moment, if they allowed Yi Fei to rush into the golden door, regardless of whether he was dead or alive, they wouldn't be able to obtain Yi Fei's head. Then, the three great ancient countries would never be able to obtain LV Mohan's promise. Wake up! After realizing this, even though they knew that Yi Fei was purposely baiting them to create an opportunity for Di Fan and the others to break out, the remaining princes of the three great ancient countries still decisively abandoned Di Fan and the other three. Almost all the warriors were filled with killing intent. Layers of earth chi were like iron buckets as they tried to surround Yi Fei and kill him. However, as these people charged forward, Yi Fei's lips curled into a maniacal smile. A resplendent sword light appeared in his hand. However, this sword light wasn't aimed at the ancient country divine sovereigns surrounding him. Instead, it was aimed at the golden door and the stone tablet on which the stone tablet was located. Yi Fei's actions baffled the surrounding warriors. Could it be that Yi Fei knew that he was going to die and had given up on himself? Otherwise, why would Yi Fei's attack slash towards the golden door's stone tablet instead of them? Only Wu Yu's body trembled when he saw Yi Fei's actions. He cried out in ecstasy, "Yi Fei, I love you to death. I should have thought of such a brilliant idea long ago. All of you, grab my hand." Suddenly, Wu Yu ignored Di Fan, Bai Shizhong, and Ji Feng's disgust and forced the three men to hold hands and stand in the air to stop the ancient nation's cultivators from destroying the silver door. As for the little emerald dragon on Wu Yu's shoulder, its entire body suddenly turned into a ray of emerald light. Like a bolt of lightning, it was shot out like an arrow by Wu Yu. Moreover, the position it shot out to was precisely the silver door that many cultivators were crazily attacking. The silver door was already on the verge of collapsing under the attacks of many warriors. Huge cracks had appeared on the stone tablet, and it looked like it would collapse at any moment. However, when the little emerald dragon was flung out by Wu Yu, its entire body stuck to the stone tablet. The stone tablet immediately emitted a dazzling silver glow and forcibly sucked Wu Yu and the little emerald dragon into the silver door. It even temporarily blocked the other warriors' attacks on the silver door. Di Fan, Bai Shizhong, and Ji Feng were all grabbed by Wu Yu's hand. Under the suction force of the silver door, they were all forcefully pulled to the front of the silver door. At this moment, some of the ancient kingdom's warriors who had made a move were dumbfounded at this moment. Only one of the ancient kingdom's princes, who had stayed behind, suddenly remembered something and screamed in horror, "Oh no, how could we forget? The rising dragon sect's disciples cultivate the imperial weapon art and can live and die with their battle pets. Once their battle pets enter the silver door, they will enter the silver door themselves." That is to say, what Yi Fei used to slash at the stone tablet wasn't his sword, but his battle pet. Boom! Ding! Thinking of this, the remaining two princes were completely dumbfounded. Then, they subconsciously looked at the stone tablet where the golden door was. They discovered that the sword light that Yi Fei slashed out actually turned into a large black turtle that looked like a pig and a dragon when it landed in front of the stone tablet. It was stealthily moving towards the stone tablet from there. The three princes were so angry that their clothes felt like they were going to explode. In their hearts, they wanted nothing more than to chop up the black turtle and make it into a soup. Unfortunately, they realized this too late. Dear. Yi Fei saw that Wu Yu had understood his intention. He also saw that Di Fan, Bai Shizhong, and Ji Feng had successfully approached the stone tablet. Without any hesitation, he snapped his fingers. The dragon turtle had already pressed its claw on the stone tablet. The three princes of the ancient kingdoms roared furiously. The divine sovereigns of the ancient kingdoms around the stone tablet were all enraged. They used all their strength and blasted out their divine powers, forming a terrifying divine power storm. It was enough to instantly turn the human ancestor experts into dust. However, to their dismay, none of their divine abilities managed to hit Yi Fei. Yi Fei's figure had already entered the golden door with the dragon turtle. One of the princes was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. The three great ancient countries had spent a lot of effort to plot against Yi Fei. Not only did they seize the divine cauldron that could rival the legendary Heaven's favorites, but they also wanted to take Yi Fei's head. They wanted to curry favor with Lu Mohan, the future ancient god. In the end, they went for wool but came home shorn. Not only did they fail to kill Yi Fei and his friends, but they also suffered heavy losses under the desperate counterattack of Yi Fei, Di Fan, and the others. This time, there were at least 400 young martial art practitioners from the three great ancient nations that entered the Great Void. All of them were Heaven's prides from some city, place, or sect. In the end, nearly 100 of them had perished in this battle. Clang! After seeing the results of the battle, the other two princes calmed down. They were so frightened that their limbs turned cold. They suddenly felt an inexplicable fear towards Yi Fei. Yi Fei only had 5 people, but he had already killed the three great ancient countries and caused them to suffer heavy losses. If these 5 people had a fortuitous encounter in the Great Void and became even stronger, what kind of challenge would the elites of the ancient countries who entered the Great Void face? Perhaps sucking up to Lu Mohan and killing Yi Fei was the worst decision that the three great ancient countries have ever made. One of the princes looked at the corpses on the ground and shuddered. Coincidentally, Yi Fei also felt a chill run down his spine when he entered the golden door. Chapter 27:11. Could Yi Fei pass the test of the ancient Emperor Matrix Spirit, the difficulty of the legendary geniuses? Yi Fei did not know either. He only knew that the golden door was his last chance of survival. Moreover, he still had a final trump card on him. However, this trump card was something that Yi Fei did not want to use unless he had no other choice. Blackie battle form. Upon hearing Yi Fei's command, the dragon turtle turned into a black light and landed in Yi Fei's hands. However, Yi Fei did not know if it was because the dragon turtle had eaten too much recently, but he felt that the black wok in his hands seemed to have become heavier. However, before Yi Fei could think about it, he realized that someone had entered the golden door and his body had automatically entered the golden arena. A dazzling golden lightning bird with chains of lightning revolving around its entire body also emerged from the platform. This was none other than the golden vermilion bird that was just as renowned as the dragon tribe. Vermilion bird. The vermilion bird was also a type of phoenix. It was born with strong combat power. An adult vermilion bird would have a cultivation comparable to the ancient emperor. However, this vermilion bird had been refined into an array spirit by the Holy Regent sect for some unknown reason and had been trapped here forever as a checkpoint. This made the golden vermilion bird filled with resentment and killing intent. Is it finally time for the test again? Kid, are you prepared to die? The golden vermilion bird roared and formed a raging fire that burned around the golden arena. Not only did it surround the arena, but it also completely sealed off Yi Fei's escape route. Yi Fei knew that from the moment he entered the golden door and stepped onto the golden arena, he only had one choice, and that was to defeat the vermilion bird and pass the test of the golden door. Fight. Face. Yi Fei was not afraid of the ancient Emperor Vermilion Bird's approaching death aura. Instead, a strong fighting spirit appeared in his body. Even the vermilion bird was moved by this fighting spirit. Then, the vermilion bird sensed Yi Fei's cultivation level. An advanced divine lord with only a 10th grade bloodline? Do people nowadays look down on the vermilion bird tribe so much? How could they allow a cripple with a 10th grade bloodline to take our test? The golden vermilion bird seemed to be sighing, but its eyes were blazing with extreme malevolence and cruelty. With a shrill cry, the golden vermilion bird had already launched an attack towards Yi Fei. However, the strange thing was that the might of the golden vermilion bird's attack wasn't as strong as the ancient emperor that Yi Fei had seen before. While at the moment when the golden vermilion bird was about to attack, the rumbling sound of chains suddenly rang out from the golden stage. Upon closer inspection, one would see that it was actually countless lightning chains that had wrapped around the golden vermilion bird's body. Not only did they restrict the golden vermilion bird, they also weakened its battle power to a certain extent. Boom! A strong gust of wind blew towards Wu Yu. Like countless sharp blades, the wind tore a spiderweb of cracks in the void. Yi Fei instinctively activated his strongest defense. His ancient god golden body, Taiji sword dance, and the dragon emperor weapon transformed from the dragon tortoise into a black wok. They instantly formed 3 layers of defense to block this terrifying attack. However, the result was out of Yi Fei's expectations. Although the golden vermilion bird was affected by the lightning chains on the stage and couldn't use its full strength, the pillar of fire that it spat out from its mouth was already enough to burn Yi Fei's ancient god golden body. Suddenly, 2 flaming saber lights slashed towards Yi Fei, tearing a huge hole in the Taiji sword dance. Trash! The golden vermilion bird let out an extremely tyrannical and disdainful cry. Its long beak had already transformed into a dazzling golden spear at the same time. It followed through the opening in Yi Fei's Taiji sword dance and fiercely pecked at Yi Fei's body. This is the pecking attack that we great Void Realm beasts are best at. Even if you die under my pecking attack, you can die in peace. It's a pity that the dragon tortoise is so fat. It must be very slippery to eat. While pecking Yi Fei, the golden vermilion bird didn't forget to show off its strength and battle results. However, the golden vermilion bird soon felt that something was wrong. After being pecked by it, Yi Fei's body didn't show any signs of bleeding. Instead, it slowly collapsed and dissipated like a piece of paper. At the same time, another figure of Yi Fei appeared behind the golden vermilion bird. His fists were like dragons as he punched out continuously. The powerful fist radiance was accompanied by the roar of a sacred dragon. However, Yi Fei didn't use the sacred dragon fist but the slightly weaker rising dragon fist. However, even though it was the rising dragon fist, the dragon's repulse that was formed by Yi Fei's fist radiance was extremely terrifying. At this moment, the dragon tortoise roared angrily as if it was threatened. It transformed into a monstrous black wok and was lifted up by Yi Fei. It viciously smashed onto the back of the golden vermilion bird's head, creating a series of shocking sparks. Huang, the golden vermilion bird's body was smashed until it staggered a few times and almost fell to the ground. The golden vermilion bird was stunned for a moment before it became furious again. It let out an even sharper cry. "Brat, do you think that you can sneak up on your vermilion bird ancestor just because you know some space magic?" Fury of the vermilion bird. The golden vermilion bird let out a shrill cry. The terrifying sound waves directly transformed into the sound of slaughter, causing the void to tremble and shatter everything. Yi Fei's ascending dragon fist had only just punched out when the highly condensed dragon repulse was actually shattered by the sound waves. "Trash! How dare you attack me with a black wok? This ancestor will swallow you alive." The dignified vermilion bird ancestor had actually been sneakily attacked with a black wok. The golden vermilion bird was enraged and its entire body turned into a terrifying flame. Then, the flame grew bigger and bigger until it transformed into a huge vermilion bird mouth. It was like a terrifying abyss of flames that suddenly swallowed Yi Fei whole. Cold sweat instantly rolled down Yi Fei's forehead. The terror of this golden vermilion bird had exceeded his imagination. Even though his cultivation had been sealed, he could still feel the dark clouds of death looming over his heart. However, the more dangerous the situation was, the crazier Yi Fei's battle intent became. He didn't panic like the other martialists who had been swallowed by the vermilion bird, nor did he fall into a desperate situation out of fear. Instead, the instant Yi Fei was swallowed, he let out a furious roar. He stomped his feet into the void and an endless amount of sword light swept out like a whistling sword storm. He punched out with both his fists. Howling demonic chi and dragon chi erupted at the same time, forming a terrifying and huge dragon tortoise. The dragon tortoise stood upright and its dragon head shook the sky. Roar. Follow. Chapter 27:12. Boom. As Yi Fei's condensed dragon claw swung out, the vermilion bird's mouth formed by flames quickly withered and dissipated, as if a huge hole had been broken in a balloon. Wang. The golden vermilion bird also let out a furious shriek. Its huge wings were like two sharp blades that burned with heaven-burning flames. The flames burned through the void and the wings sliced through mountains and rivers as it charged towards Yi Fei again. Yi Fei's expression turned cold. After exchanging blows with the golden vermilion bird, he understood that even if he wasn't a match for the vermilion bird, he still had the ability to protect himself. Behind him, the dragon turtle's form changed. It turned from a black pot to a crystal ball and landed in Yi Fei's hands. Yi Fei's eyes shone with a mysterious light as he gripped the crystal ball tightly. It was the Eye of Space, and, even though his bloodline and heavenly emperor mystique had been sealed when he entered the Great Void, the Eye of Space, which originated from the eye of the Holy Dragon, had been preserved. When he was outside, Yi Fei couldn't bear to use it when he was surrounded by hundreds of ancient martial art practitioners. He wanted to use it when he charged through the golden door and faced the ancient Emperor Array's spirit. Swoosh. That was a glance. Yi Fei's eyes shone with a golden light as he looked at the golden vermilion bird. The golden vermilion bird's body suddenly froze, as if it had been immobilized. Even the heaven-burning flames on its body froze under Yi Fei's gaze. Space. You can actually control the space Tao law. No, even the so-called rank 12 prodigies of the human race wouldn't be able to control such power. You can't possibly control it. Scum. This was an even louder shriek. The golden vermilion bird was trying to break free from Yi Fei's eye of space. However, it had forgotten that its current cultivation level and combat strength were suppressed by the lightning chains on the arena. It couldn't break free and couldn't unleash the power of the ancient Emperor realm. No. As a powerful race that was comparable to the dragon tribe, even though the golden vermilion bird's cultivation base had been sealed, the powerful vermilion bird spirit was still able to release earth-shattering and mountain-shaking booms as it struggled. Even space itself was trembling and creaking. Li Fei's forehead was instantly covered in layers of cold sweat. His eye of space had been able to freeze LV Mohan for 10 seconds, but the vermilion bird had actually started to struggle after only 2 seconds. This is on one hand, it was the advantage of the vermilion bird race. It allowed the vermilion bird spirit to innately possess a very terrifying attack power. On the other hand, it was the vermilion bird ancient emperor's realm. Even though it was suppressed, it still possessed a very terrifying explosive power. Realizing this, Yi Fei no longer hesitated. A cold light flashed in his eyes. We can't hold back anymore. We have to destroy it before it breaks free. Kill. Taiji Tribulation Sword. Dragon in the Sky. The sword light was dazzling. Li Fei threw out a punch with one hand and a sword with the other. The fist was a killing fist, and the sword was a demon-slaughtering sword. In the golden vermilion bird's eyes flickered not with fear, but with rage and boiling killing intent. Puny human. You've completely infuriated your ancestor. Do you really think that I've been trapped here for thousands of years just to become a target for you juniors to pass the trial? Vermilion bird's nirvana. The golden vermilion bird didn't move. It was still trapped by the eye of space. However, Yi Fei could clearly sense that there was a special flame burning in the golden vermilion bird's body. Then, in less than half a breath's time, the golden vermilion bird's eyes suddenly shot out a pillar of fire that shot into the sky. This is nirvana? The fire is also the fire of rebirth. I've endured for thousands of years and finally found the greatest hope of getting rid of the array spirit and regaining my freedom. Now I'll let you, a puny ant, experience the terror of the vermilion bird race. The flames in the golden vermilion bird's eyes formed another vermilion bird that was slightly smaller than the golden vermilion bird. This vermilion bird was exactly the same as the golden vermilion bird, be it in terms of aura or soul. The only difference was that the golden vermilion bird's array spirit was the ancient emperor array spirit, while this smaller vermilion bird had evolved into the Runzu array spirit. However, even if it was the Runzu array spirit, Yi Fei wouldn't be able to resist it. This was because the second vermilion bird array spirit didn't have a lightning chain around its body like the golden vermilion bird. In other words, this vermilion bird could completely unleash the power of a Runzu array spirit. Yi Fei's face instantly turned pale. How can this be? If the array spirits of the Golden Gate all have such abilities, wouldn't any of the geniuses who came in die? Then, how will the Holy Regent sects select the best disciples? Select the best disciples? What a joke. Back then, I was just a little unlucky and was captured by this group of people from the Holy Regent sects. My physical body was destroyed and my soul was refined. They even trapped me here for thousands of years and reduced me to an array spirit. However, they underestimated the vermilion bird race too much. After enduring this humiliation for thousands of years, I finally mastered the forbidden technique of the vermilion bird race and split my soul into two. The main soul replaced the ancestor and continued to be suppressed here. The second soul focused on cultivating and waited for the day when it could be freed. You little piece of trash of the human race, you sure are unlucky. To think that you would break through just as my second spirit was breaking through to the human ancestor level. Tell me, how should I thank you for sending me such a perfect physical body? The golden vermilion bird's eyes were as greedy as a viper's as it stared coldly at Yi Fei. Suddenly Yi Fei felt his hair stand on end. Even though the vermilion bird didn't move, Yi Fei still executed the spatial transference technique in an instant and left the place he had been at. The moment Yi Fei moved away, a terrifying flaming figure appeared where he had been standing. That figure flapped its wings and turned into a flaming sword that stabbed Yi Fei between his eyebrows and his chest. If Yi Fei hadn't relied on his many years of combat experience to dodge in time, those two swords wouldn't have pierced his afterimage but his real body. Your reaction is pretty fast. Unfortunately, since you know my secret, do you think you have any chance of survival? The golden vermilion bird felt a little humiliated that its Renzu array spirit hadn't been able to kill Yi Fei in an instant. Almost as soon as it stabbed Yi Fei's afterimage, the vermilion bird's figure disappeared from where it had been and suddenly reappeared where Yi Fei had been standing. Its blade-like wings slashed out at lightning speed once again. That was, even a peerless genius like LV Mohan wouldn't be able to see it with the naked eye, let alone Yi Fei. The only thing Yi Fei could do was subconsciously use his space diversion technique and change his position continuously. This action thoroughly enraged the golden vermilion bird. Chapter 27:13. A frenzied gamble on the golden arena, countless afterimages suddenly appeared around the vermilion bird. Evidently, the vermilion bird ancestor was starting to get impatient after failing to hit Yi Fei so many times. Its wings became even more terrifying, as if they had really become two terrifying flaming divine blades that could slice through the sky and shatter the stars. The whistling blade aura formed a hurricane that continuously tore through the surrounding space and destroyed Yi Fei's afterimages. Yi Fei's expression became even more serious. The reason he had been able to kill Renzu and fight against the peerless geniuses was because of the divine ghost cauldron and the heavenly emperor mystique. Now that these two things had been sealed, he had lost these two advantages. He instantly felt that it would be difficult to resist the second spirit of the Renzu vermilion bird. However, no matter how difficult it was, Yi Fei still gritted his teeth and used all his strength to resist. The dragon turtle once again turned into a black pot and fell into Yi Fei's hands. There was a loud clang as the flaming blade aura sputtered in the face of the vermilion bird's frenzied attack. These sputtering flames also hid the most terrifying blade aura of the vermilion bird. No matter how marvelous Yi Fei's spatial transference was, it was unavoidable that some of the flames sputtered onto his body in this palm-sized arena. Immediately, that terrifying saber aura was about to tear his body apart and drill into his heavenly palace spirit. However, before the blade aura could enter his body, a black pot descended from the sky and slammed into the surroundings. Countless sputtering flaming blade aura were not only unable to hurt Yi Fei, but Yi Fei also used the black pot to slap these flames back as he teleported. "Evil creature, I'll return your flames to you. How dare you insult the vermilion bird ancestor when you're just a piece of trash from the human race?" Yi Fei's words completely enraged the vermilion bird. It especially hated the black pot that the dragon turtle had turned into. When it saw that the pure sputtering flames couldn't hurt Yi Fei, the vermilion bird roared again and opened its mouth to spit out a terrifying pillar of flames. This pillar of flames swept across the entire arena. Yi Fei, who was in the middle of teleportation, instantly felt a sense of impending doom. However, he didn't stop. Instead, a frightening sword light condensed in his hand. This sword light formed a frightening destructive force. This was the primordial mystic ability that Yi Fei had mastered in the Sword Palace, the Immortal Emperor Sword. The resplendent sword light also turned into a destructive pillar of light that shot in the opposite direction and blasted towards the pillar of flames. However, because of this, Yi Fei's body was forced to stop. The vermilion bird ancestor also let out an ecstatic shriek. Its huge beak suddenly flickered with a golden glow. This was the attack that the beasts were most adept at, pecking. The long beak of the vermilion bird was like a blazing golden spear that pierced through the void and headed straight for Yi Fei's body. Yi Fei's face suddenly revealed a look of madness and viciousness. Since I've been forced into a dead end, why don't I go crazy? Ancient god golden body, block it for me. Kaboom! Resplendent purple gold light burned on Yi Fei's body like a raging inferno. At this moment, it was as if Yi Fei had turned into a mad war demon. The mad demon battle technique and ancient god golden body were activated at the same time. He reached out with his bare hands and grabbed the vermilion bird's beak. Bam! However, the golden spear formed by the vermilion bird's beak was too frightening. Even though Yi Fei had grabbed it with his bare hands, its beak still scraped Yi Fei's palm with its powerful inertia. It even scraped Yi Fei's flesh and blood. With a poof, it stabbed into Yi Fei's body. Kiki, the ancestor has stabbed you. Kid your life, stab your ass. What answered the vermilion bird was Yi Fei's mad roar like an Azura. He completely ignored the bird's beak that was stabbing into his body. Yi Fei's eyes were filled with madness. Before he knew it, 2 layers of terrifying astral chi had appeared. One was the dragon's aura that Yi Fei had mastered from the sacred dragon fist, and the other was the imperial celestial aura that he had obtained from the imperial sky. At this moment, these 2 gusts of energy were like 2 layers of soft armor, blocking in front of him and the vermilion bird's beak. A look of shock flashed across the vermilion bird's eyes. You can actually use the method of self-mutilation to block the patriarch's killing move? But so what? Now that your hands are crippled and your earth energy is gone, I'd like to see how you're going to block my next attack. Dregs. This vermilion bird's beak was filled with contempt. Although its beak had been blocked by Yi Fei's self-harm method, its wings were free. With a whoosh, its wings were like knives that were about to slash at Yi Fei's neck. Roar. Suddenly, the vermilion bird felt the top of its head turn dark. Just as it was focusing all its attention on Yi Fei, the black pot that it had grabbed flew up on its own. Not only did it turn into a dragon turtle again, but it also grew bigger and bigger. It was like a black meteorite mountain that carried the unique rage and violence of the dragon turtle clan. Suddenly, the dragon turtle used all its strength to sit on the vermilion bird's head. It felt as if someone had hit its head with a brick. The vermilion bird instantly felt its vision turn dark and its head become dizzy. Its beak was grabbed by Yi Fei desperately and it couldn't retract it at all. It could only watch as the giant black turtle sat on its neck like a meteorite. With a crisp crack, even the Renzu realm vermilion bird's neck was broken instantly. It hung limply on the ground like noodles. The flames and divine light on the wings that it had just raised also dimmed at the same time. It seemed to have lost all ability to resist. Roar. The dragon turtle immediately let out a victorious cry. It was about to rush to Yi Fei's side and confidently ask for more food. Suddenly, Yi Fei's expression changed drastically. Blackie, come back quickly. Ignoring the fact that his hands were already badly mangled, Yi Fei abruptly activated spatial shift and suddenly appeared behind the dragon turtle from the front. There, the vermilion bird's neck was twisted like a straight stick. It was dented and the middle of its neck was pressed against the ground. However, the vermilion bird's eyes were still sharp like a completely enraged demon. It let out a shrill roar and raised its wings like knives. It couldn't wait to split the dragon turtle in half. The dragon turtle was so frightened that its mouth turned white and its tail shrank back. Suddenly, at this moment, the gigantic dragon turtle turned into a spinning crystal ball. It bounced up from the ground and coincidentally dodged the vermilion bird's attack with its wings. The vermilion bird was so angry that its elongated neck twisted violently. Just as it was about to open its mouth and peck the hateful black turtle to death, the vermilion bird suddenly stopped. Chapter 27:14. beating Vermilion Bird. A true swordsman could not only use his sword with a sword in hand, but he could also use his sword without a sword in hand. Yi Fei was one such example. Even though his hands were severely injured and he could no longer gather sword light, Yi Fei's feet were still there. He could still release sword light from his feet. He could even open his mouth and spit out sword light. He could even use his eyes to gather sword light. He could even use his body as a sword to release sword light. Vermilion Bird thought that Yi Fei was unable to release sword light because his hands were severely injured. However, she had overlooked Yi Fei's terrifying understanding of the sword. This was the peak of the sword that Yi Fei had spent his entire life comprehending. So what if he couldn't use his hands? The Taiji Catastrophe sword was still released from Yi Fei's feet. The 9 cauldrons of heaven and earth appeared behind Yi Fei. Finally, a terrifying dragon roar came from Yi Fei's body. Vermilion Bird was shocked to see that Yi Fei was crazy enough to open his sky palace. Then, a young man's spirit stepped onto the sky palace, went down the mountain of Tao, crossed the sky bridge, entered the fate wheel, and exited the sky palace. The mighty spirit transformed into a pair of terrifying dragon fists. Carrying a dazzling dragon's repulse, the fists suddenly landed on Vermilion Bird's head. Vermilion Bird felt its head explode. Its entire body was completely stunned by Yi Fei's series of attacks. It couldn't help but cry out in pain. Its body was torn apart and it died in front of Yi Fei. Dead! The Sky Palace appeared behind Yi Fei. At this moment, the spirit stood outside the Sky Palace and stared coldly at Vermilion Bird's torn body. Only when it turned into scattered flames did Yi Fei let out a long breath. The dragon turtle also turned into a crystal ball and hurriedly shot towards Yi Fei. However, before the dragon turtle could reach him, the main spirit of Vermilion Bird, which was bound by the lightning chains, suddenly laughed coldly. "Little tortoise, even I didn't eat you. How can you die so easily? Vermilion Bird, rise from the ashes." Scum! The scattered flames suddenly gathered together as if they were alive. The sparks that filled the sky actually gathered together and burned fiercely. Then, the burning flames suddenly extended a pair of crimson bird claws, a pair of sharp bird wings, and a long flaming bird beak. The Vermilion Bird had been reborn from the ashes. Moreover, the reborn Vermilion Bird had become even more tyrannical. It looked at Yi Fei with a gaze filled with hatred. "Little ant, you actually killed Patriarch once. Patriarch is becoming more and more interested in your physical body, scum." As the Vermilion Bird raised its wings, countless flames turned into saber energy and swept towards Yi Fei. The expressions of Yi Fei and the dragon turtle instantly turned ugly. He had already used all his strength to deal with the Vermilion Bird, but he still couldn't kill it. On the contrary, the Vermilion Bird was getting stronger as the battle progressed. If this situation continued, he and the dragon turtle would be doomed. "What should we do now?" Yi Fei's expression was solemn. He glanced at the dragon turtle, who had changed back to his original form. The dragon turtle had a solemn expression and called out in a childish voice, "Xiao Qiao." Yi Fei's expression changed. Although he didn't want Xiao Qiao to be in danger, it seemed that other than Xiao Qiao, they had no other way to deal with the Vermilion Bird. "Xiao Qiao, wake up quickly." Yi Fei had no choice but to roar at the beast mark space. Hearing this roar, the Vermilion Bird's eyes revealed a mocking expression. "Ha ha ha, kid, you're really a stupid bird. Have you been scared silly by Patriarch? If you don't beg for Patriarch, go beg for a blade of grass. Die." The Vermilion Bird's sharp wings were like knives, its beak was like a spear, and its claws were like hooks. This time, the Vermilion Bird was determined to kill Yi Fei in an instant. Yi Fei's expression suddenly turned cold. He shouted in a deep voice, "Xiao Qiao, it's up to you." A light flashed on Yi Fei's shoulder and a little girl holding a vine whip ran out angrily. Xiao Qiao, who had awakened this time, seemed to be a little different from before. Upon closer inspection, Xiao Chao's body was no longer emitting a 5-colored divine light. Instead, it was emitting a 6-colored divine light. It was actually one more color than before. Xiao Chao, you've broken through? Yi Fei suddenly felt a sense of pleasant surprise in his heart. Xiao Chao also proudly raised her head and puffed out her chest. She shook her ponytail, indicating that the current Xiao Chao had become very powerful. As he spoke, Xiao Chao rushed towards the vermilion bird formation spirit. Without even looking, he waved his little hand and released the 6-colored divine light that he had comprehended during his sleep. This divine light was even more domineering than the 5-colored divine light. In the past, Xiao Chao's 5-colored divine light was able to beat the Renzu realm remnant soul of Rizu to the point that it had no choice but to flee. At this time, when Xiao Chao's 6-colored divine light was released, the vermilion bird formation spirit immediately let out a terrified cry. The vermilion bird's main array spirit was even more horrified when it saw its second soul weaken just by being swept by the divine light. The human ancestor realm that it had painstakingly cultivated dropped by a small realm. How can there be such a terrifying little girl in this world? The main vermilion bird formation spirit had been watching the show. It was waiting to see how Yi Fei would be tortured to death by its second soul. However, when Xiao Chao appeared, the main vermilion bird formation spirit suddenly felt a chill run down its spine. However, its injured second soul went berserk at this moment. It was like an enraged demon. It screamed and opened its mouth to swallow Xiao Chao. At this moment, Yi Fei and the dragon turtle became a little nervous. After all, this was an ancient emperor-level formation spirit. Xiao Chao could beat up Rizu, but Yi Fei couldn't guarantee that. Xiao Chao could also beat up the vermilion bird. Yi Fei couldn't help but look at Xiao Chao nervously. Xiao Chao, can you do it? Ee. Xiao Chao swung her vine whip domineeringly. The dragon turtle turned into a crystal ball and bounced to Xiao Chao's side. Then, Xiao Chao stepped on the dragon turtle and held the vine whip in one hand. The 6-colored divine light in the other hand fused with the vine whip and suddenly swung it forward. Yi Fei vaguely saw that Xiao Chao's vine whip seemed to have turned into a divine whip of heaven and earth. It carried an unparalleled power as it lashed out viciously. That power actually made Yi Fei's soul, which was standing in the Sky Palace, feel intense pain. He had no choice but to quickly close the Sky Palace. However, Xiao Chao refused to let this vermilion bird go, especially when she saw that Yi Fei's hands were covered in blood. It was obvious that he had been severely injured. Xiao Cao's cheeks puffed up and she immediately released a dozen or so vine whip. All of them hit the vermilion bird's body in one breath, causing the vermilion bird's second soul to tremble violently. Before it could even open its mouth to beg for mercy, its soul had already dissipated. It turned into a flaming ruby and fell to the ground with a clink. Chapter 27:15. She ate it. She actually ate it. The golden vermilion bird's eyes were no longer dazed. Instead, they were filled with fear. One had to know that what Xiao Chao had just eaten wasn't an ordinary red gem. That was the spirit of the vermilion bird formation. It had split its own soul and refined it into a spirit stone. As its name implied, it was a crystal that stored its soul. As long as the crystal didn't shatter, the golden vermilion bird could use the formation of the Golden Gate to be reborn without any restrictions. It wouldn't be killed. Even if you beat the golden vermilion bird to death, it would never have thought that there was someone in this world who could even eat spirit stones. This was too savage and too terrifying. For a moment, the golden vermilion bird looked at Xiao Chao and didn't know what to say. Yi Fei and the dragon turtle were also dazed. Xiao Chao actually ate that stone? If he did this, would it have any negative effects on Xiao Chao? After all, that stone was formed from the golden vermilion bird's second soul. Yi Fei quickly rushed to Xiao Chao and carried Xiao Chao. He asked, "Xiao Chao, are you all right?" How can you eat that thing so casually? He. Xiao Chao lowered her head and looked like a child who had done something wrong. Just as she was about to secretly throw away the spirit stone that she had bitten off, the dragon turtle, who had followed them over, was already heartbroken. Seeing that Xiao Chao could eat it, the dragon turtle didn't say anything and stretched out its black mouth. With a crunch, it swallowed the spirit stone that Xiao Chao hadn't finished eating. Roar! After swallowing the spirit stone, the dragon turtle suddenly spat out a terrifying flame from its mouth. This was no longer a dragon's flame. It was the unique flame of the vermilion bird tribe that could burn the heavens. When this flame was spat out from the dragon turtle's mouth, not only did Yi Fei and Xiao Chao jump in fright, the golden vermilion bird also jumped in fright. What did this black fellow eat to grow up? Why is it another freak? That's the spirit stone of our ancestor. The golden vermilion bird was heartbroken. What's the use of a spirit stone? Yi Fei saw that the dragon turtle only spat out fire after eating the spirit stone and didn't seem to have any other discomfort. He quickly looked at the golden vermilion bird and waited for an explanation. The golden vermilion bird was very displeased with Yi Fei's tone. Yi Fei sneered. Since he had already been forced to expose Xiao Chao, he no longer had any qualms. He naturally wanted to take advantage of the golden vermilion bird being trapped and trample it beneath his feet. Hearing Yi Fei's words and seeing that the dragon turtle was spitting out fire, Xiao Chao also started to panic. The vine whip in Xiao Chao's hand glowed with a resplendent six-colored divine light as it whipped towards the golden vermilion bird's body. The golden vermilion bird screeched in anger. It was the ancient vermilion bird after all. Even though its second spirit had been destroyed by Xiao Chao, its dignity as an ancient vermilion bird prevented it from lowering its head to a little girl. Therefore, the golden vermilion bird used all its strength in an attempt to block Xiao Chao's vine whip. However, the vine whip completely ignored the golden vermilion bird. The flames that were capable of burning the heavens split the flames apart and landed heavily on the golden vermilion bird's body. The golden vermilion bird let out a blood-curdling shriek. It finally understood why its second spirit had been beaten to a pulp by Xiao Chao's vine whip as if it had been struck by chicken plague. The god's striking whip was simply too terrifying. It was clearly the nemesis of all soul avatars. If it allowed Xiao Chao to continue beating it like this, it was very likely that it would be beaten to death. Even the array formation of the golden door wouldn't be able to save it. The golden vermilion bird shrieked in fright. A warrior can be killed but not humiliated. Stop beating me. At most, I will suffer a little and let you pass this test. Boom. As it spoke, the golden vermilion bird couldn't wait any longer. It opened a golden door and pointed at it with its wings as if it was sending off a god of plague. Enter this door and you will be considered to have passed the test of the golden arena. You will obtain some sort of opportunity in the great void. Yi Fei looked curiously at the golden door and nodded. Then, he shook his head and said, "Who knows if you are telling the truth? Furthermore, that stupid stone of yours caused my tortoise to spit out fire. How are we going to settle this debt?" When the golden vermilion bird heard this, it was so angry that it wanted to break free from the lightning chains and fight Yi Fei to the death. Brat, it was clearly this black fatty who was greedy and swallowed my spirit stone. I didn't settle this debt with you, but you want to settle it with me? The golden vermilion bird's vicious aura was shocking. In the face of this vicious aura, Yi Fei simply put down Xiao Chao and said, "Xiao Chao, don't hold back. Hit it with all your might. Perhaps if you kill it, it will drop an even bigger spirit stone." Eee! Xiao Chao's black eyes widened. He discovered that this vermilion bird was indeed bigger than the strange bird from before. Xiao Chao's eyes immediately lit up. When the golden vermilion bird saw Xiao Chao's expression, it was scared out of its wits. "What sin have I committed to meet you people? I admit defeat, I surrender. That black tortoise, listen to my chant and it will be able to refine the spirit stone." As the golden vermilion bird recited the chant, it felt as if its heart was dripping blood. It was one thing for it to be unlucky enough to be refined into an array spirit by a sect of the sacred region, but now that it had finally managed to cultivate a second soul and was on the verge of breaking free, it had encountered Yi Fei. Not only had it lost all hope of breaking free, it had even been threatened by Yi Fei. Roar! The dragon tortoise roared. After receiving the chant from the golden vermilion bird, the dragon tortoise finally refined the spirit stone that it couldn't refine. However, the flames on the dragon tortoise's body didn't extinguish. Instead, it continued to burn. A powerful aura suddenly appeared on its body. Upon closer inspection, it was the aura of a monarch god. Big Black, is it about to break through to the monarch god level? Yi Fei and Xiao Chao looked at each other. They didn't expect the dragon tortoise to have such benefits after swallowing the spirit stone. Then, Yi Fei and Xiao Chao stared at the golden vermilion bird with sparkling eyes. The golden vermilion bird was so frightened that it started to tremble. Layers of cold sweat rolled down its burning feathers. It was afraid that Yi Fei would kill it for its spirit stone if he was unhappy. At this moment, the golden vermilion bird didn't dare to have any resentment towards Yi Fei. A strange and ugly smile appeared on its ferocious bird face. It hurriedly smiled apologetically and said, "My two ancestors, I have already surrendered. Furthermore, I am just a spirit of the vermilion bird that has lost its physical body. I don't have any treasures on me anymore." "That may not be true. I see that your feathers are beautiful and eye-catching. It seems to be extraordinary." Yi Fei held his chin and carefully observed the vermilion bird's feathers. Xiao Chao followed suit and held his chin as he sized up the vermilion bird. Chapter 27:16. The vermilion bird submits. The golden vermilion bird's resentment soared to the heavens again. However, it was only a formation spirit and not a physical body. Even though it was an ancient emperor, Yi Fei wasn't afraid at all. He lowered his head and looked at Xiao Chao. "This vermilion bird is a little disobedient. Xiao Chao, what do you think we should do?" Xiao Chao's expression was solemn as he gently swung his vine whip. If this strange bird didn't listen to him, Xiao Chao would be very angry. The consequences of angering Xiao Chao weren't ordinary. At the very least, when the golden vermilion bird saw Xiao Chao raise his vine whip again, it couldn't help but shiver again. The resentment that had soared to the heavens disappeared mysteriously and a bitter expression appeared on the bird's face. "What do you want from me to be willing to let me go?" "Nothing much. You just need to prove that the golden door you opened is real and not a trap to trap me." Yi Fei didn't really want to take advantage of the golden vermilion bird, but this vermilion bird was too cunning. Who knew if the golden door it opened was real or fake? Yi Fei didn't want to be tricked by this vermilion bird if he wasn't careful. The golden vermilion bird's expression changed. It clearly didn't expect Yi Fei to be suspicious of this point. Its expression couldn't help but turn solemn. It seemed to have thought of something as it looked at Yi Fei and then at Xiao Chao. Suddenly, the golden vermilion bird seemed to have made a decision. It looked at Yi Fei and said in a low voice, "Suspicious human brat, this old ancestor knew that it wouldn't be easy to fool you. That's right, if you believed this old ancestor and walked through the golden door, you would be no different from those stupid birds outside. In fact, there is only one way to pass the test, and that is to kill this old ancestor. As long as the array spirit is dead, you will pass the test of the golden door." Yi Fei silently stared at the golden vermilion bird. He didn't say anything, nor did he act. The golden vermilion bird flapped its wings, causing the illusory golden door to transform into a spatial trap that vanished from the stage. After that, the golden vermilion bird's expression turned heavy as it spoke. "However, this ancestor doesn't wish to die. Because every time I die, my memories would vanish. If I want to escape, I can only spend a lot of time and start all over again. Hence, this ancestor has decided to cooperate with you. Cooperate? Yi Fei raised his brows. Do you think you have the qualifications to cooperate with me? After all, no matter how strong the golden vermilion bird was, as long as it didn't have a physical body, Xiao Chao's god-beating whip would be able to suppress it. Hearing this, the golden vermilion bird's face turned ashen. Helpless in the face of Xiao Chao's god-beating whip, the golden vermilion bird didn't have any temper. It could only lower its head and say, "Brat, you win. As long as you agree to bring me out of this damned seal, I am willing to submit to you. I will also tell you a shocking secret of the Great Void." What secret? Tell me. Yi Fei was starting to feel a little curious. Xiao Chao and the dragon turtle also pricked up their ears, as if they wanted to hear a story. The golden vermilion bird was a little angry and said, "Bring me out first and I will tell you." What a joke. If I let you out and you take the chance to run away, or use your ancient emperor cultivation to deal with me, do you think I will be able to defeat you? Yi Fei laughed coldly. Just like how the vermilion bird didn't trust him, he didn't trust the golden vermilion bird even more. Unless he was completely confident, he would rather be ruthless and kill the golden vermilion bird than bring it out. As if it felt Yi Fei's killing intent, the golden vermilion bird's eyes gradually became fierce. However, when it saw Xiao Chao standing beside Yi Fei, the fierceness quickly turned into sadness and helplessness. I didn't expect that after roaming the great void for thousands of years, I would end up in a state where I can't even threaten a junior Sir God. Forget it, if I die, so be it. Instead of being trapped here and becoming an array spirit, I would rather take a gamble. Scum. The golden vermilion bird suddenly spat out a shiny soul crystal and it landed in Yi Fei's hand. This is the most precious soul crystal of the vermilion bird tribe. If this crystal is broken, even the strongest vermilion bird will be annihilated. Now, do you trust me? In order to escape, the golden vermilion bird really went all out this time. It even gave its soul to Yi Fei. As he held the crystal and felt the aura of the vermilion bird spirit, Yi Fei instantly felt that if he gently crushed this crystal, this ancient Emperor Vermilion Bird's soul would immediately dissipate and it would die. However, this also proved the golden vermilion bird's sincerity. Yi Fei was finally moved and started to have some trust in this vermilion bird. Furthermore, the Great Void was extremely dangerous. If he had an ancient Emperor Vermilion Bird by his side, he would have a stronger life-saving trump card. Furthermore, with Xiao Chao around, he wasn't afraid that this vermilion bird spirit without a physical body could cause any trouble. At this thought, Yi Fei finally made up his mind. He put away the soul crystal and said, "All right, I agree to submit to you. Now, what do I have to do to bring you out of here?" "You don't have to do anything. The little girl beside you is from the legendary fairy spirit tribe, right? The bloodline of the fairy spirit tribe has an extremely strong seal-breaking effect. As long as I have a drop of her blood, I will have a way to break free from these damned lightning chains and regain my freedom." The golden vermilion bird looked at Yi Fei expectantly and nervously. The vermilion bird tribe was very proud. Many of them would rather die than submit to others. If it hadn't been imprisoned for so long and wanted to regain its freedom, the golden vermilion bird wouldn't have been forced to submit to Yi Fei and take the risk to give him the soul crystal. Yi Fei looked at the vermilion bird's expression and then at the soul crystal in his hand. Since this vermilion bird was willing to take the risk and he had Xiao Chao by his side, why wouldn't he dare to take the risk? "Xiao Chao, give it a drop of essence blood." Knowing that subduing this vermilion bird would greatly benefit Yi Fei, Xiao Chao happily bit his finger and released a drop of essence blood. Yi Fei then flicked the drop of essence blood to the golden vermilion bird. The entire stage was filled with the cries of the golden vermilion bird. It impatiently swallowed the drop of essence blood with its long beak. Soon, the golden vermilion bird's body was covered in a layer of special golden flames. The flames were even more tyrannical than the vermilion bird's heaven-burning flames. It actually broke all the lightning chains around its body. Soon after, a terrifying ancient emperor's aura was released from the golden vermilion bird's body. Finally, I have broken free from this damned ancient god's seal. The golden vermilion bird was extremely vicious. The moment it broke free, it seemed to want to vent all the resentment it had accumulated from being suppressed for thousands of years and being refined into a formation spirit. However, before it could vent, Xiao Qiao had already taken a bite out of the vermilion bird formation spirit's soul crystal with a crunch. Her small face also revealed a very delicious and satisfied expression. Chapter 27:17. The Path of Inheritance. The road. I don't want to do anything. I just want to test the soul crystal and see if it works, Yi Fei said indifferently. After all, the golden vermilion bird had been extremely vicious the moment it appeared. Yi Fei naturally had to use the appropriate methods to make the vermilion bird understand the situation it was in. The golden vermilion bird's face revealed a trace of anger and unwillingness. However, the soul crystal was already in Yi Fei's hands. As long as Yi Fei wanted to, he could destroy its soul at any time. The golden vermilion bird could only lower its head and say, "Human brat, you win. Didn't you want to enter the golden door? Come with me now." As it spoke, the golden vermilion bird had already opened the true golden gate. Soon after, it turned back into a fist-sized little red bird and was about to fly onto Yi Fei's head. However, Xiao Qiao saw the little red bird's burning feathers and her eyes lit up. With a swoosh, she reached out to grab the little red bird. Yi Fei couldn't help but laugh. "Xiao Qiao, I'll leave this bird to you. If it causes trouble, use the god-striking whip and teach it a lesson." Then, Yi Fei lifted his foot and walked into the golden door. Xiao Qiao also grabbed the little red bird that the golden vermilion bird had turned into and excitedly returned to the beast mark space. He began to research how to make the little red bird more fun. The great vermilion bird ancestor had been reduced to a toy in the hands of a little girl. Even the golden vermilion bird couldn't help but shed tears of regret. It hurriedly shouted, "Let me out. Otherwise, I will never tell you the secret of the Great Void. If you don't tell me the secret of the Great Void, don't even think about Xiao Qiao letting you out." A simple smile appeared on Yi Fei's face. However, this smile caused the golden vermilion bird to feel an indescribable grievance. Thus, it could only obediently tell Yi Fei the secret it knew. The golden vermilion bird's expression was very serious. "The Great Void has the inheritance of the ancient heavenly emperor. It is said that whoever finds this inheritance will obtain the opportunity to become a heavenly emperor." "What did you say, celestial emperor?" Yi Fei was shocked. An ancient god was already a godlike existence in the heaven realm. As a celestial emperor who was even stronger than an ancient god, how terrifying would that be? However, the golden vermilion bird was saying that the celestial Thearcha's inheritance was here. How could this be? If there was a celestial emperor's legacy, the sects of the sacred region would have sent all their forces to fight for it. How could they let us juniors train here? You lied to me. Yi Fei's face suddenly darkened. The golden vermilion bird flared up with rage. "My soul crystal is in your hands, how could I lie to you?" In the Great Void there was indeed the legacy of the celestial emperors, and it was even more terrifying than any of the celestial emperors in the sects of the sanctuary. However, this heavenly emperor was far too powerful. The heavenly palace he left behind was something that even a heavenly emperor of the same realm could not break open. Only a divine Lord Junior could pass through the inheritance test left behind by this heavenly emperor and obtain a key to enter the heavenly emperor palace. You all thought that the sects of the sanctuary opened up the Great Void to select talents, but in reality, they were just using you all to obtain the key to the heavenly emperor palace. The golden vermilion bird's words completely overturned Yi Fei's understanding of the sects of the sanctuary and the Great Void. He did not want to believe the golden vermilion bird's words, but now that the golden vermilion bird's life was in his hands, there was no need for it to deceive him. Yi Fei's heart was in a mess. To think that there was such a truth hidden in the great void. However, if this is the path of inheritance set up by the ancient heavenly emperor, why would there be a test for the sex of the sanctuary? Yi Fei did not understand. After all, whether it was the light bridge or the golden arena, they were all tests set up by the ancient gods of the sanctuary. They had nothing to do with the path of inheritance. The golden vermilion bird chuckled coldly. Heh, this is how cunning the sects of the holy region are. If they hadn't set up a few tests beforehand, wouldn't the news of the celestial Thearcha's inheritance be known to everyone? You must know that there is competition between the sects of the sanctuary as well. Kid, what else do you want to know? Do you want me to tell you everything? The golden vermilion bird cackled strangely, causing Yi Fei's hair to stand on end. As the saying went, the more one knew, the faster one would die. The heavenly emperor's legacy was important, but his own life was undoubtedly more important. Yi Fei thought about it and decided not to ask any more questions. He continued to walk forward. After walking for about an hour, a huge floating island appeared in the void in front of them. There were ancient stone tablets in front of the islands, but most of the words on them had been deliberately erased. Only a few words were left, words that even Yi Fei could not recognize. Yi Fei's heart stirred. He asked in a low voice, "Senior, what is this place in front of us?" Kid, listen carefully. The previous tests were just a trick used by the sects in the sanctuary to deceive others. From now on, the real path of inheritance will begin. The closest ancient road of inheritance to us is called the path of blood refinement. If you can pass this ancient road of inheritance, you will obtain a kind of miraculous item that can strengthen your bloodline. The golden vermilion bird's words caused Yi Fei's expression to change. Currently, the greatest difference between him and a peerless genius was his bloodline. If there really was a heavenly treasure that could raise the grade of his bloodline, this was definitely something that Yi Fei dreamed of. "Senior, may I ask what I need to do to pass through this path of blood refinement?" Yi Fei asked. He had already decided that he had to pass through this path of blood refinement. The golden vermilion bird replied, "It is very simple. After entering, you will encounter all sorts of puppets set up by the ancient heavenly emperor. Only by defeating those puppets will you pass the test. Otherwise, you will die. So, if you can fight, then fight. If you can't, then retreat. After all, the inheritance is important, but our lives are more important." In this void, in addition to the blood-refining steel, there were more than a dozen void light bridges that extended to different voids. However, these light bridges were more ancient and mysterious than the light bridges that the sacred region sects used to open up the great void. In Yi Fei's heart, he finally began to believe that the previous two tests were really just a cover-up by the sanctuary sect. Obviously, these light bridges in front of him were the beginning of the path to the inheritance. It was also the beginning of the rise of many martialists. Yi Fei looked at the dozen bridges with a serious expression. Finally, he lifted his foot and walked towards the nearest stone tablet that had the path of blood refinement engraved on it. Boom! When Yi Fei stepped over the stone tablet and walked onto the bridge that had the path of blood refinement engraved on it, a pair of ferocious stone eyes appeared on the stone tablet. They coldly glanced at Yi Fei before slowly closing their eyes. Chapter 27:18 Seal of Life and Death. Yi Fei finally understood why the ancient god had sealed everyone's bloodline and treasures in the Great Void City, and even forbade the use of the divine powers of the celestial emperors. On the surface, this seemed to be the sanctuary sect's way of ensuring fairness in the assessment. However, the fundamental reason was that this was the inherent rule of the legacy path. By the way, Senior Vermilion Bird, I wonder if I'll be able to meet my friends inside? Walking on the light bridge alone, Yi Fei could not help but think of Di Fan, Ji Feng, and the others who had parted ways. He wondered if they were doing well, and if Bai Yanran and Chu Ling had adapted to the fierce competition in the great void. The golden vermilion bird was being tossed around like a toy by Xiao Chao. At the same time, the vermilion bird spoke with a cold arrogance, "You won't meet each other. At the beginning of the path of inheritance, there will only be one person. Furthermore, there will be different levels of difficulty. For example, if you pass through the golden door, you will be able to choose the highest level of difficulty and undergo a trial. Once you pass through the trial, your rewards will also be enormous." After crossing the light bridge, a huge island appeared in front of them. Although it was called an island, it was more like a special battle space. It was surrounded by barren mountains, and there was not a single trace of life. However, Yi Fei did not dare to let his guard down. The moment he stepped onto the island, his consciousness quickly swept out. Then Yi Fei saw that there were 12 golden coffins erected on top of the originally empty mountain range. The moment they sensed Yi Fei's divine sense, the golden coffins all opened with a bang. 12 mighty men wearing golden battle armor walked out. Their eyes were like knives and their auras were like fire. The only difference was that these men were all lifeless. Only their bodies remained. At the same time, an ancient and hoarse voice came out of the leader's mouth, like two pieces of magnets rubbing against each other. "Divine Martial Guards. Golden Armor General, please select the difficulty of the trial. 3 people? 5 people? 10 people? Or all 12 of us together?" Yi Fei couldn't help but speculate that the number of golden armored divine generals he challenged might be the difficulty of this test. Yi Fei suddenly had a plan. "My bloodline is now grade 10. If I challenge the normal difficulty, I'm afraid it will be difficult to suppress the Void Serpent and improve my bloodline. I've decided. Seniors, please come at me together." Yi Fei strode forward and bowed respectfully to the 12 golden-armored generals. Even though they were only corpse puppets refined by the ancient celestial emperor, Yi Fei still maintained his respect. This respect caused the golden-armored general to nod and let out a rare cold voice. "The highest difficulty is to challenge the 12 of us. If you can kill your way out, you win. If you can't kill your way out, you will die. Kill. Kill, kill, kill." Following the leader's voice, the other 11 golden armor divine generals all woke up from their deep slumber. They opened their pale eyes indifferently, and an aura like a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood appeared on their bodies. Seal of life and death. These golden armor divine generals formed a circular formation. Their auras were connected, and they charged at Yi Fei from their respective mountains. They didn't show any mercy because of Yi Fei's respect. Yi Fei wasn't angry. He had refined corpse puppets before, so he naturally knew that once a corpse puppet received an order, it would carry it out without any hesitation. Yi Fei didn't even think and pulled out the golden vermilion bird from the beast mark space. "Senior Vermilion Bird, it's up to you this time." The golden vermilion bird immediately scolded, "Brat, you're shameless. You don't want to fight, but you use the old ancestor as a shield. Don't you know that once you enter the ancient path, any divine arts practitioner, even a celestial emperor, will have their cultivation sealed?" Bam! As he spoke, Yi Fei saw that the golden vermilion bird, who was so arrogant in the golden arena, was actually kicked to the ground by one of the golden armor divine generals. At the same time, a strange seal struck the golden vermilion bird. The golden vermilion bird was already screaming in pain. It was forced to transform into a flame, barely escaping the fate of being killed by the 12 golden armor divine generals. It flew back into the beast mark space with its wings bare. The golden armor divine generals were slightly stunned. However, they were corpse puppets after all. They only knew how to fight and didn't think too much. When they saw that the golden vermilion bird had disappeared, all the divine generals immediately surrounded Yi Fei. Yi Fei couldn't help but grumble inwardly. The reason why he had chosen the highest difficulty without thinking was because the golden vermilion bird was present. He wanted to rely on this ancient vermilion bird to kill everyone in the Great Void. In the end, it turned out that the golden vermilion bird was so weak. Yi Fei wanted to discuss with the corpse puppets to see if they could lower the difficulty. However, the corpse puppets didn't give Yi Fei any time to speak. When the 12 golden armor divine generals rushed forward, they had already activated the seal of life and death. 12 identical seals of life and death were formed and smashed viciously at Yi Fei's body. This powerful pressure caused a thin layer of cold sweat to appear on Yi Fei's forehead. However, his feet continued to step forward. With every step he took, a terrifying sword light shot up from the ground. When Yi Fei took the 12th step, the entire void was filled with terrifying sword light. These sword lights tore through the sky and shattered the heavens. However, what happened next caught Yi Fei completely off guard. In the face of Yi Fei's powerful sword light, the seals in the hands of the 12 golden armor divine generals suddenly changed. They actually overlapped with the seals from before. Not only did they continuously shatter Yi Fei's sword light, but the 12 seals of life and death also suddenly merged into an even more powerful seal that blasted mercilessly at him. Boom! 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 Wherever the seal of life and death passed, even the void collapsed. Countless terrifying cracks appeared. Yi Fei's forehead was once again covered in cold sweat. He was even a little dumbfounded. He clearly saw that the golden armor divine generals had used a different seal technique this time. However, why was this seal technique able to overlap with the seal technique from before and continue to strengthen the seal of life and death? Yi Fei was also filled with doubts when he was struck by the huge seal of life and death. His body was immediately sent flying out of his control. While he was still in midair, he exploded into countless pieces. What a terrifying seal of life and death! It really determines life and death with one seal. Chapter 27:19. Kill. This. The golden armor divine generals did not stop attacking just because Yi Fei was injured. On the contrary, their ferocity was completely aroused. Once again, they fired off their life and death seals in unison towards Yi Fei. However, this time, the life and death seals were clearly different from the previous 2 times. Not only were the seals formed, but the aura they exuded was also very unfamiliar. Yi Fei this time, Yi Fei was completely stunned. These golden armor divine generals had clearly released 3 different types of seals, but why did they all turn into life and death seals in the end? Even more, what terrified him the most was that the seals released by the 12 golden-armored godly generals could stack with each other, allowing the life and death seals to surround Yi Fei from all directions. Boom! Seeing the 12 life and death seals coming towards him in layers, Yi Fei no longer dared to continue blocking. Instead, he suddenly used spatial transference and instantly teleported out of the encirclement of the golden armor divine generals. Continuous explosions came from behind him. Due to Yi Fei's sudden disappearance, the life and death seals of the golden armor divine generals did not hit Yi Fei. Instead, because of Yi Fei's sudden disappearance, they hit their comrades. The 12 golden armor divine generals were stunned. Yi Fei's eyes also lit up at this moment. Corpse puppets were corpse puppets after all. Although the power of their stacked life and death seals was very strong, they were not without weaknesses. As corpse puppets, these golden armor divine generals are not very intelligent. It can be said that they are completely relying on their instincts to fight. Furthermore, the fighting style of these golden armor divine generals is also fixed. They cannot be as flexible as real warriors. Yi Fei discovered this point when these corpse puppets were hit by his attack. After all, 4 warriors, even if they could not hit their targets, they could not cause accidental injuries to each other. Because this was so that cultivators could react in advance before they accidentally hurt their allies, so that their divine abilities would dissipate before they hit their allies. However, these corpse puppets were straightforward and didn't know how to be flexible at all. There was only one possibility. The attacking style of these golden armor divine generals had a pattern. Once he discovered this pattern, he would be able to find a way to break them. But what was it? What was the pattern of attack of these golden-armored generals? Senior Vermilion Bird, can you tell? Yi Fei muttered to himself as he asked the golden vermilion bird. In the beast mark space, the golden vermilion bird was using its soul power to repair its bald wings. When it heard Yi Fei's question, it immediately scolded angrily. The patriarch offended someone and was captured into the great void. He did not barge in on his own. How would I know the pattern of these things? However, you can try attacking one and see. Considering that its life was still in Yi Fei's hands, the golden vermilion bird still reluctantly gave a few pointers. Yi Fei's eyes lit up. After all, the golden vermilion bird was a super elite of the ancient emperor realm and had lived for thousands of years. Whether it was in terms of experience or knowledge, Yi Fei could not catch up to it. Of course, previously Yi Fei's attention had been completely divided on the 12 golden-armored generals, so he was unable to deal with them and was even in a rather sorry state. However, after the golden vermilion bird's reminder, Yi Fei finally came to his senses. Without the assistance of his bloodline and treasures, it was simply impossible for him to defeat the 12 golden-armored generals at the same time. Since that was the case, what he could do now was to gather all his strength and attack one of them. Only then would he have a chance of defeating them one by one. As he thought of this, Yi Fei's body surged with a strong fighting spirit once again. Kill! 10. After a short moment of confusion, the 2 golden-armored divine generals quickly stabilized themselves and once again formed a tight formation before charging towards Yi Fei. However, this time, before the golden-armored divine generals could surround him, Yi Fei had already let out a low roar and used the spatial manipulation technique. In an instant, he had moved from the front of the 12 golden-armored divine generals to behind them. Kill! However, this time, the golden-armored divine generals reacted very quickly. They suddenly turned around and didn't give Yi Fei any chance to dodge. The whistling seals of life and death were like 12 special divine seals that suppressed the heavens and the earth as they came crashing down on Yi Fei. Ancient God Golden Body, rising dragon in the sky. Yi Fei wasn't afraid. Facing the layers of seals of life and death that came crashing down on him, Yi Fei immediately activated his ancient God Golden Body. Blazing purple gold flames condensed into the most brilliant ancient godlight, instantly increasing Yi Fei's defense to a level that even Renzu found terrifying. Boom! 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 The seals of life and death continued crashing down on Yi Fei, but they couldn't break Yi Fei's golden body in a short period of time and hurt Yi Fei's body. At the same time, the undying sword soul behind Yi Fei burned fiercely and instantly condensed the most powerful sword principle light. With a boom, Yi Fei stepped out from under his feet and suddenly charged towards the nearest golden armor divine general. That golden armor divine general's expression didn't change. He was extremely cold as he activated a new seals of life and death once again. It was cold and emotionless as it clashed with Yi Fei's sword light, creating a loud boom. At this moment, a hint of madness flashed across Yi Fei's eyes. Suddenly, a deafening dragon roar came from his hands. Just as the golden armor divine general was using all his strength to block his sword light, Yi Fei's fists roared like dragons as they punched out. Under the same realm, the golden armor divine general couldn't block Yi Fei's 2 consecutive Great Void superpowers at the same time with just the seals of life and death. Another terrifying boom. The golden armor divine general's golden armor was shattered and his chest was pierced through by the terrifying sword light. He instantly lost the ability to fight. Yi Fei was shocked that one of the golden armor divine general's pieces seemed to be attracted by some kind of power. It actually turned into a golden page and fell into his palm. This scene stunned Yi Fei once again. The golden vermilion bird, who was hiding in the beast mark space and watching the battle, suddenly reacted and shouted loudly, "Old ancestor, I understand now." That page is the seals of life and death that these corpse puppets have cultivated. As long as you defeat them, you will obtain the complete seals of life and death. Boom! The golden vermilion bird's reminder made Yi Fei's head explode. At this moment, he finally understood why these golden armor divine generals could release the seals of life and death even though they used different seals. They could even merge perfectly. I see. This stage doesn't just test the warrior's fighting ability. It also tests one's observation and comprehension ability. Not only do I have to defeat these corpse puppets, but I also have to comprehend the seals of life and death on their bodies. Only then will I be considered to have passed the test. Yi Fei's eyes were no longer filled with doubt. Instead, they were filled with a strong fighting spirit. Chapter 27:20. Boom, boom, boom. The fall of a golden-armored puppet didn't make the other golden-armored divine generals feel any fear. After all, as corpse puppets, they didn't know fear or even death. The 11 golden-armored divine generals once again got into formation and charged mercilessly at Yi Fei. However, with his previous experience, Yi Fei was even more proficient in this battle. He very quickly found a slightly weaker golden-armored divine general and used the space diversion again. He immediately rushed in front of the golden-armored divine general and used the Taiji Calamity sword and the Rising Dragon fist at the same time. With just one strike, he shattered the golden-armored divine general's armor and made it lose the ability to fight. At the same time, another piece of armor fell into Yi Fei's hand. However, before Yi Fei could sense it, he suddenly sensed an extremely dangerous aura. Before he could react, he felt a sharp pain on his back. After all, although the ancient god Golden Body's defense was terrifying, it also had its limit. When the ancient god Golden Body reached its limit, it would shatter and Yi Fei would be injured as well. Just now, the other 10 golden-armored generals had joined forces to launch the seal of life and death at him while he was attacking. Finally, they had shattered Yi Fei's ancient god Golden Body. If Yi Fei hadn't reacted quickly and used his spatial ability to move far away, he would have become a corpse by the time he defeated the golden-armored general. Oh no, this is going to be difficult. I was able to defeat the golden-armored divine general because of the ancient god Golden Body's defense. Without the ancient god Golden Body, I wouldn't have been able to defeat these golden-armored divine generals alone. Yi Fei's expression suddenly changed. The Golden Body had been destroyed and couldn't be reformed in a short period of time. If these golden-armored divine generals suddenly went berserk, Yi Fei wasn't confident that he could withstand them. Senior Vermilion Bird, what should I do now? Yi Fei asked the golden vermilion bird's opinion instinctively. The golden vermilion bird looked at Yi Fei as though he was an idiot. Idiot, if you can't beat them, you can run. Run to the mountain over there. Although I haven't entered the ancient road of inheritance, I know that any trial, there must be a chance of survival. Yi Fei couldn't help but nod. At the same time, he felt that having an experienced bird like the vermilion bird by his side was very useful. Immediately, Yi Fei decided to try the vermilion bird's suggestion. He immediately took a step forward and rushed to the nearest mountain. The golden-armored divine general, the golden-armored divine general. Yi, the vermilion bird. Vermilion the vermilion bird general. And your idea is your idea. Calm. Yi Vermilion the golden vermilion bird general. Vermilion had vermilion bird general, T it divine general. The T the of ancestor the patriarch ancestor. The Yi I ancestrensis words. It. Ancest T. The golden vermilion bird went against its will again. Yi Fei didn't say another word. He would rather take another attack to rush down the mountain. He didn't do this because he believed the vermilion bird. He believed that the vermilion bird wouldn't play around with its life. If Yi Fei failed the test and was killed, the golden vermilion bird, whose spirit stone was in Yi Fei's hands, would be buried with him. This was the reason why Yi Fei accepted the vermilion bird's advice without hesitation. Roar. Seeing that Yi Fei did not accept the challenge, and had instead charged up 2 mountains, the remaining 10 golden armor divine generals roared violently. However, they did not charge up the mountain like before. Yi Fei was very confused. What's going on? When I rushed to the first mountain, the golden armored divine general chased after me. Why did they stop when I rushed to the second mountain? Ha ha ha, I see. There are 12 mountains here, which represent 12 golden armored immortal generals. The immortal general on the mountain that you rushed to before was not defeated by you. Therefore, they could continue to chase after you. However, this time, the immortal general on the mountain that you rushed to has been defeated by you and could not return to the mountain. Therefore, the other immortal generals could not rush up here. The bald little red bird rushed out excitedly and landed on Yi Fei's shoulder. It chirped non-stop. Yi Fei's eyes lit up when he heard this. That means I can continue to hide on the mountain. When my golden body recovers, I can go down the mountain and continue to defeat these golden armored divine general one by one. Stupid bird. You might be recovering, but don't tell me the 2 corpse puppets you injured won't recover? I guarantee that their recovery speed will be faster than your golden body. The golden vermilion bird mocked mercilessly. Yi Fei couldn't be bothered to retort. He slapped the red bird on his shoulder to the ground. He rubbed his chin and said, "There's still time. Even if I can't recover my golden body, I still have to think of a way to comprehend the seal of life and death in my hands. As the saying goes, know thyself and know thy enemy, and thou shalt be victorious in every battle." Since Yi Fei couldn't win with his golden body, he could only try to comprehend the seal of life and death to see if he could find any flaws or weaknesses in the seal of life and death. Of course, Yi Fei had already thrown the golden vermilion bird back into the beast mark space. At the same time, Yi Fei took out the 2 golden pages and quickly comprehended them. However, Yi Fei's comprehension speed was slightly slower because he couldn't use the indestructible sword token. But it didn't matter. The indestructible sword token couldn't be used, but the dragon turtle could. Big Black, turn into a ball. Yi Fei roared and activated the Dragon Emperor weapon. The dragon turtle, who was still consolidating its divine Lord Realm cultivation, turned into a crystal ball again. At the same time, he used the dragon turtle's deduction ability to continuously deduce the seal of life and death. Huang the golden vermilion bird also opened its eyes wide and looked at the dragon turtle in disbelief. This seems to be the dragon clan's imperial weapon art. Strange, shouldn't an imperial weapon only have one form? How did this black fatty cultivate to have 2 forms? The second form is actually a very rare deduction ability even among the turtle clan. As it spoke, the golden vermilion bird had already stretched its neck and wanted to get closer to take a closer look. Suddenly, a small hand reached out from the side and grabbed its body. The hand threw it on the ground and wanted to slap it. Unfortunately, the golden vermilion bird wasn't like the dragon turtle, who bounced up after being slapped. Xiao Qiao was immediately filled with disappointment. She felt that this strange bird wasn't fun at all. However, she didn't notice that the golden vermilion bird had already burst into tears. Chapter 27-21. Roar. That. The golden armored general roared furiously at the provocation and sent a seal of life and death at Yi Fei. However, the golden armored general's seal of life and death only had 1 seal, while Yi Fei's seal of life and death had 2 seals. As the 2 seals overlapped, they were naturally more powerful. When the 2 seals of life and death collided, the golden armored general's seal of life and death crumbled instantly. At the same time, it was pushed back by Yi Fei's seal of life and death. At this moment, Yi Fei suddenly stood up and rushed down the mountain. At the same time, he used the spatial diversion to attack the golden armored general that had been pushed back. Roar! The surrounding golden armored generals all went berserk. 9 consecutive seals of life and death formed a chain that bombarded Yi Fei's body. Yi Fei's face was filled with madness. While using the Mad Demon battle technique to increase his battle strength, he also sent out 9 soul cauldrons to resist the 9 seals of life and death. At the same time, Yi Fei formed another seal in his hand and sent out 2 more seals of life and death. The golden armored general stumbled and fell to the ground. It let out an indignant roar. With a crack, the golden armored general's armor shattered and a golden page fell into Yi Fei's hand. Only! Yi Fei didn't even have time to rejoice. Behind him, the soul cauldrons that had resisted the 9 seals of life and death were smashed to pieces by the seals of life and death before they landed on Yi Fei's body again. At the moment, Yi Fei's ancient divine golden body had yet to recover. All he could do was stomp his feet on the ground and unleash another burst of intense sword light from his feet. This sword light condensed into a Taiji sword diagram. With a whoosh, it split the sky and earth and once again blocked the great seal of life and death from the 9 golden armored divine generals. However, the seals of life and death were executed by 9 divine Lord Corpse puppet. Even though the Taiji sword diagram was activated, Yi Fei only managed to block it for a moment. The 9 seals of life and death had already shattered the Taiji sword diagram and continued to bombard Yi Fei's body. At this moment, even the golden vermilion bird became nervous. After all, without the advantage of bloodline and treasure, Yi Fei didn't have much of an advantage at the same level. If Yi Fei was killed, the golden vermilion bird would be in trouble as well. That rascal is. He is too reckless. The patriarch will die because of him. Boom! Another terrifying sword light condensed in Fei's hand. However, this sword light wasn't aimed at the golden armored generals. Instead, it was aimed at Yi Fei's body. Wah! Bam! Even though Yi Fei had been mentally prepared, he still couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. However, the powerful impact of the sword light still sent Yi Fei's body flying towards the mountain peak. Outside, the 9 golden armored generals roared furiously. Their 9 seals of life and death were about to kill Yi Fei, but in the end Yi Fei used a method that was almost self-mutilating to escape to the top of the mountain. Freak! This rascal is a freak who plays with his life. He was using his own sword projection to attack the golden armored divine general in order to obtain a chance to escape. Even the golden vermilion bird was dumbfounded by this idea. A smile appeared on Fei's face. This method is a little cruel, but it can help me escape danger and give me more time to comprehend a stronger seal of life and death. Blackie, help me deduce. Yi Fei said. Yi Fei held the crystal ball that the dragon tortoise had evolved into with one hand and the newly obtained golden page with the other as he continued to comprehend. This time, Yi Fei only spent a quarter of an hour to completely comprehend the life and death great seal in his hands. Kill! No. He didn't even have time to recover from his injuries. The moment Yi Fei finished learning the seal of life and death, he pounced on the 4th golden armored general. Yi Fei. However, he still used the same method. He used the space diversion and the seal of life and death that had been stacked up to 30% to open a path. Then, he used his own sword light to attack himself before the other golden armored generals could join forces to attack him. In the following period of time, the golden vermilion birds suddenly experienced how crazy and reckless a person could be when they were serious. Just like this, Yi Fei used almost masochistic methods. Every once in a while, he would rush down the mountain to defeat a golden armored divine general and snatch the golden pages from them. While Yi Fei's mastery of the seal of life and death became stronger and more complete through his comprehension of the seal of life and death. Finally, when he had stacked up the seal of life and death to the 7th level, Yi Fei finally stopped using his sword light to torture himself. Instead, his eyes suddenly turned cold. 2 of the layers of the seal of life and death bombarded the targets he had chosen. The remaining 5 layers of the seal of life and death collided fiercely with the stacked seals of life and death of the 5 golden armored generals. Boom! A loud boom was heard. The seals of life and death of the 5 golden armored generals and Yi Fei's seal of life and death had mutually annihilated each other. Neither side could do anything to the other. As for the lone golden armored general, his golden armor was shattered by Yi Fei's 2 stacked seals of life and death, and he lost the ability to fight. The golden vermilion bird also looked at Yi Fei in disbelief. This kid actually succeeded. He defeated more and more golden armored generals through self-torture. The seal of life and death that he mastered will only become stronger and stronger. This seemingly undefeatable situation was actually turned around by him. Although Yi Fei wasn't a peerless prodigy, the golden vermilion bird felt that he was more terrifying than some peerless prodigies. The scene that followed completely confirmed the golden vermilion bird's judgment. Following Yi Fei's mastery of the seal of life and death continued to increase. His battle prowess also increased by leaps and bounds as he comprehended the seal of life and death of the 8th golden armored general. Yi Fei ignored his injuries and charged out of the mountain to fight the remaining 4 golden armored generals. At the same time, with 8 stacked seals of life and death, these golden armored generals were no longer a match for Yi Fei. Clang! After the last golden armored general with the golden page was defeated by Yi Fei's seal of life and death seemed to have reached great mastery. He even felt that with just one more step, this seal of life and death would evolve from a great void stage mystique to a heavenly emperor stage mystique. Same as at this moment, the fallen golden armored generals stopped attacking. The leading corpse puppet said in a cold and mechanical voice, "Those who can defeat the divine martial guards within 3 days and reach great mastery of the seal of life and death can pass the test and enter the heavenly emperor blood pool." Boom. 10. Chapter 27-22. Yi Fei stared at the vast pool of blood before him. Although it was called a blood pool, it was actually a huge lake that was filled with a terrifying source energy. This is the Celestial Emperor's source energy. Refining it is equivalent to consuming a divine elixir. Kid, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and rush in. This blood pool can not only improve your bloodline, but it can also remove the bloodline restrictions in your body. As he spoke, a little red bird with a bald wing impatiently struggled free from Xiao Chao's grasp and wanted to be the first to rush into the blood pool. Look! Xiao Chao's face stiffened when he saw the strange bird trying to escape. He suddenly stretched out a vine whip and dragged the little red bird down. At the same time, he hurriedly stepped on the strange bird for fear that it would escape. The golden vermilion bird couldn't help but cry. The patriarch was also an all-powerful vermilion bird back in the day. Now, he has been stepped on by a little girl. The more he thought about it, the sadder he became. The little red bird that the golden vermilion bird had transformed into was actually like an inflated rubber ball. Xiao Chao was amazed and quickly withdrew his foot. He picked up the golden vermilion bird again and slapped it around like a rubber ball. The golden vermilion bird's face darkened immediately. The power of the Celestial Emperor's blood pool was much stronger than Yi Fei had imagined. When he walked in, a wave of rich source energy surged toward his body like a torrential flood. I wonder if this Celestial Emperor's source energy will be enough for me to break the seal and improve my bloodline? Yi Fei wondered nervously. As soon as he entered the blood pool, he sat down in a lotus position and began to work hard to refine the Celestial Emperor's source energy. Same as Yi Fei's mind wasn't on his bloodline, but on the sacred dragon's eye that had merged with his body. The sacred dragon's eye had turned into a half-black, half-white little sacred dragon that coiled in Yi Fei's dantian like another spirit. Only what vexed Yi Fei was that the sacred dragon's upper body was in the form of a sacred dragon, but its lower body was in the form of a void snake. At this moment, sensing that Yi Fei was about to use the Celestial Emperor's source to break its seal, the sacred dragon suddenly transformed into a dragon with a snow-white lower body and an evil black serpent upper body. Its huge triangular eyes were filled with malevolence and viciousness as it roared at Yi Fei. "You won't be able to break my seal. I am the Void Serpent. We were born from the bloodline and continue from the void. Since your bloodline has already deteriorated to that of a mortal, then you should obediently kneel on the ground and become my cradle." The void snake roared with all its might. Its huge snake head even tried to swallow Yi Fei's consciousness. However, the sacred dragon's sacred dragon was like a mountain, suppressing the void serpent until it couldn't move. Apart from roaring in place, it couldn't harm Yi Fei at all. And even so, Yi Fei's eyes flashed coldly as he looked at the void serpent. This was a strange, evil spirit born from his bloodline seal. It was the biggest obstacle to his growth. Even if he couldn't kill the void serpent now, he definitely wouldn't let it have an easy time. Here Yi Fei's heart stirred. He suddenly transferred all the refined Celestial Emperor's source to the sacred dragon's eye. The void serpent's huge triangular eyes immediately flashed with anger and fear. It started to roar angrily. Layers of terrifying void venom formed a terrifying toxic light that protected it. Yi Fei wasn't surprised. If the bloodline seal in his body was so easy to deal with, then it wouldn't have evolved into a mysterious void serpent. However, Yi Fei wasn't discouraged. "I don't have much now, but I have a lot of Celestial Emperor's source. Let's see who can outlast the other. Celestial Emperor's source, burn for me." Boom. Boom. Yi Fei started to use his consciousness to automatically ignite the refined Celestial Emperor's source, forming a special divine fire that burned towards the void serpent. The void serpent immediately let out an even more intense roar. Almost instinctively, it started to control Yi Fei's bloodline, drawing upon the power of the void and constantly extinguishing the source fire that approached it. In this way, Yi Fei's consciousness and the void serpent's snake spirit entered a stalemate in the Celestial Emperor blood pool. While on the other side of the ancient road of inheritance, there were two beautiful figures. Every day they would stand in front of a door of light, waiting for someone to appear. At that door of light, from time to time, cultivators who had passed the test of the ancient road of inheritance would be transported over. They were all people who had passed the test of the ancient road of inheritance. It was just that the difficulty of the test was different, so the rewards they received from the Celestial Emperor were different. However, no matter who it was, when they walked through this door of light, they would involuntarily look at the two beautiful figures not too far away. After all, beautiful women were always able to attract people's attention. Furthermore, these two beautiful women with outstanding temperaments were standing together at the same time. This inevitably made many people curious. Who exactly was so fortunate to be able to make these two beautiful fairies raise their heads in anticipation every day? However, very soon, people saw a deep look of disappointment in the eyes of these two women. "What should we do? There's still no news of Yi Fei." "Humph. Master said that this fellow is a jinx and won't die so easily. Master even specially warned me not to get too close to this jinx." My father said the same thing. He even told my brother to keep an eye on me." Bai Yanran blinked her eyes. She was very fond of Chu Ling, and suddenly felt regretful that they hadn't met earlier. During the period of waiting for Yi Fei, their friendship had improved by leaps and bounds, and they had begun to call each other sisters. The more he envied them, the more he wished he could join them and become sworn sisters with Chu Ling and Bai Yanran. However, when he saw Bai Shizhong glaring at him covetously and raising his knife to cut him down at any time, Wu Yu decisively shut up. Bai He had just narrowly passed the test in the silver door. He did not want to taste death again so soon. However, after waiting for more than 10 days, Yi Fei still had not appeared. Wu Yu could not help but feel anxious. "It's been so long, and Yi Fei still hasn't appeared. Do you think Yi Fei can really pass the test of the Golden Door? We can't, but he definitely can. He's a person who is good at creating miracles. The person who spoke was Fu Renjie. He was the first person to pass the test of the Silver Door. At Fu Renjie's side was Di Fan and Ji Feng. However, more than half of the young Sir Gods from family Jiwang who had followed them in had already died in the test of the Silver Door. Moreover, the number of martial artists that had passed through the light bridges controlled by the three ancient empires and entered the arena was close to 10,000. But now, there were less than 3,000 martial artists that had truly arrived here. A large portion of them had chosen this path of inheritance from other light bridges. However, Yi Fei was not among these people. This Chapter 27-23. This was also the reason why Bai Yanran and Chu Ling waited here every day. They hoped that Yi Fei would walk out of the door in the next moment. However, to their disappointment, Yi Fei didn't appear. Instead, they heard a cold, mocking voice from a short distance away. You don't have to wait for Yi Fei. Only a peerless genius can pass the test of the Golden Door. That Yi Fei has not appeared for so long, he is most likely dead. Unfortunately, this person has the ability, but he is too stupid. Of all people, he offended Lu Mohan. It can be considered that he deserved to die. Fairies, don't keep thinking about that Yi Fei. He's handsome and has good talent. As long as you agree to follow me, I guarantee that I won't treat you unfairly. Finally, the crown prince of an ancient nation spoke in an even more unbearable manner. He directly began to tease Qin Yu, drawing in many mocking gazes. Of these people, some were martial artists from ancient nations, but most of them had come from other bridges and had chosen this road of inheritance. There wasn't just one path of inheritance from the ancient heavenly emperor. There were many branches. Martialists who entered the path of inheritance could choose the most suitable branch according to their own talents and characteristics. Emperor Fan and the others hadn't expected that the three crown princes would choose the same branch as them. Their expressions were ugly. Ji Feng and the family Jiwang youth behind him were furious and murderous. However, before they could make a move, a strange, cold laugh came from another direction. Ji Feng, your family Jiwang had better behave. Otherwise, the ancient alliance wouldn't mind cleaning you up right now. The crown princes of the three ancient kingdoms weren't the only ones who had chosen this ancient path of inheritance. Even the ancient alliance had sent a large number of people to choose this path. The person leading them was the ancient alliance's deputy leader, Sikong Hao. He was the young master of the Sikong family. While when family Jiwang had still been in the ancient alliance, he had suppressed Sikong Hao and forced Wanmu Kai to agree to appoint Ji Feng as the deputy alliance leader. Although the family Jiwang had left the ancient alliance and Wanmu Kai had given the position of deputy alliance leader to Sikong Hao still felt uncomfortable about being picked up from the street. When he saw that the family Jiwang seemed to be in conflict with the three ancient nations, Sikong Hao naturally didn't mind. He led the ancient alliance's martialists to step forward and trample on Ji Feng. The three ancient nations' crown princes were delighted when they saw this. Wu the crown prince immediately walked over and greeted them warmly. So it's the senior brothers of the ancient alliance. I've heard so much about Brother Sikong. How about this? Are you interested in joining us temporarily on this path? Sure, but how should we split the spoils? Sikong Hao didn't refuse. After all, the ancient alliance wasn't the strongest on this ancient path. They didn't need allies to ensure the greatest benefit. The three ancient nations' crown princes were rather bold. In order to rope in the ancient alliance, which had a peerless genius overseeing it, they exchanged glances. Then, the crown prince of the Wu nation said forthrightly, as everyone knows, those who pass through the silver door can obtain some sort of opportunity in the great void. The people before us have all passed the test of the silver door. Our three ancient nations can help the ancient alliance and get them to hand over all the opportunities they have. Those two fairies seem to have a good relationship with Yi Fei. We can also capture them and make them servants. The other two crown princes also spoke up icily, their eyes swept over by Yanran and Chu Ling unceremoniously. Sure. However, I want to play with those two girls first. Sikong Hao ordered haughtily. The three ancient nations' crown princes were a little angry. However, when they thought about their enmity with Yi Fei, they hardened their hearts and said, "All right, we'll do as Brother Sikong says." In an instant, the three ancient nations stood together with the ancient alliance led by Sikong Hao. This caused an uproar among the martialists. Bai Yanran and Chu Ling's slender, elegant figures standing outside the gate every day were already very eye-catching. Now, the three ancient nations and Sikong Hao actually said that they wanted to sully those two fairies. This naturally caused many people to sympathize with them. However, the rules of the Great Void were as such. Here, strength was everything. If one was strong, they could do whatever they wanted. If one was weak, even if one was the son of an ancient god, they would still be trampled underfoot. No one. Some people chose to help Bai Yanran and Chu Ling, but they all looked like they were waiting to watch a good show. Only Di Fan, Fu Renjie, Wu Yu, and Ji Feng exploded with terrifying killing intent when they heard this. Bai Yanran and Chu Ling were so angry that their faces turned white. They had never experienced such humiliation in their lives. "I'll kill all of you bastards." Bai Shizhong was completely enraged. Training was secondary to his trip to the Great Void. The most important thing was to protect his sister. Du He was a crazy protector of his sister who was only slightly weaker than Yi Fei. Even Yi Fei had to worry about being killed when he approached Bai Yanran. Moreover, this group of people had slandered him in public. If he could tolerate this, he wouldn't be called Bai Shizhong. Follow everyone only saw a terrifying sword light flash out. Bai Shizhong was already stepping on divine inscriptions and charging towards the Crown Prince of Wu Kingdom. The Crown Prince of Wu Kingdom was instantly enraged. "It's the honor of a lifetime for you lowly women to be played by me. You dare to call us bastards? You're courting death. Kill them all. Yes, kill them and take their opportunities. This is the result of going against us ancient nations." The Crown Prince of Yu Kingdom and the Crown Prince of Han Kingdom were both enraged. Following their orders, many warriors from the three great ancient nations roared and charged towards Bai Shizhong. However, before they could attack Bai Shizhong, a mighty purple aura suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. Di Fan walked over from the void like a saint. The powerful fist of a saint instantly blasted a warrior from an ancient nation into smithereens. There's actually an innate saint hidden in this group of people. Many warriors who were watching the battle were inexplicably shocked. One had to know that even in the heaven realm, a saint was also a legend. If it was said that a peerless genius could suppress an era, then an innate saint was born with the destiny of an era. They were born extraordinary and invincible. Emperor Di Fan's attack gave Sikong Hao a shock. Then, he saw that after inheriting Di Fan's purple aura, another terrifying demonic dragon aura appeared between heaven and earth. That was Fu Renjie activating his demon-breeding heavenly fetus and turning into a huge demonic dragon. The dragon claws were awe-inspiring and carried a corrosive demonic dragon aura. Boom. Pay. Chapter 27-24. Black and White Dragon Snake. If they don't hand over the inheritance, we'll kill them all. The martial artists from the three ancient countries were not intimidated by Fu Renjie and Di Fan's strength. Instead, they tried to use their advantage in numbers to surround and kill Di Fan and Fu Renjie at the same time. Ji Feng's body emitted a terrifying madness and killing intent. Under his influence, the young men from the family Jiwang wanted to rush up and help. It was also considered as revenge for being forced by the three ancient countries. However, a cold voice stopped the young men from the family Jiwang. Ji Feng, I've heard of you. It's said that you used to be a mad dog in the Scarlet Moon Divine Dynasty. You relied on the care of your ancient god-grandfather to reach your current position. Unfortunately, a mad dog is a mad dog. In the eyes of the ancient families, you'll always be a dog. Si Kong Hao's tone was vicious, as if he was trying to provoke Ji Feng. The young men from the family Jiwang were all enraged by his words. Only Ji Feng did not show any anger on his face. Instead, he was filled with pride and confidence. That's right, I'm a mad dog. However, I'd rather be a free dog than be like you, kneeling on the ground and wagging your tails before Duan Mu Kai. Shut up. Today, I, Si Kong Hao, will kill a mad dog like you. As if Ji Feng had poked at his sore spot, Si Kong Hao was furious and his killing intent was as sharp as a blade as he charged towards Ji Feng. Ji Feng suddenly let out a long howl. A silver moon symbol appeared on his forehead. He was wearing a scarlet cloak, his claws were like hooks and his eyes were cold. Suddenly, a ferocious and crazy aura filled the entire sky. This was Ji Feng, the mad dog who used to be in the life and death arena. Kill! Along with a crazy roar, Ji Feng had already engaged in a fierce battle with Si Kong Hao. Moreover, he used all of his strength to attack Si Kong Hao, completely abandoning all of his defenses. This crazy scene shocked many young experts in the crowd. Ji Feng's fighting style was not only crazy but also inexplicably pure. Boom! The celestial Dharch blood pool was seething with sanguine flames, but the one emitting the flames was not Yi Fei. It was the dragon turtle. The dragon turtle was sprawled in the blood pool, its black mouth open like a black hole. It was wantonly devouring and refining the celestial Dharch origins in the blood pool. Furthermore, as the celestial emperor's origin was refined, the divine lord aura on the dragon turtle's body became thicker and thicker. Even the tortoise's back began to show crisscrossing dragon patterns. Especially on the dragon turtle's head, there was a pair of crystal-clear dragon horns that were burning with a special vermilion bird flame. They were like two torches that lit up the sky. Xiao Chao's eyes sparkled as he felt that the dragon turtle was getting more and more beautiful. The golden vermilion bird howled in agony. Part of my soul crystal ended up benefiting this turtle, and it even turned this fatty's dragon flames into vermilion bird divine fire. One had to know that the dragon clan and the vermilion bird clan were different. The dragon clan's strength came from their physical body, while the vermilion bird's strength came from its divine fire. Therefore, ordinary dragon flames were incomparable to the vermilion bird's divine fire. However, as the dragon turtle had swallowed part of the vermilion bird's second soul crystal, the dragon flames had undergone a transformation and gradually evolved into the vermilion bird divine fire. How could the golden vermilion bird not be heartbroken? What was even more heartbreaking was that when it was depressed, there was a little girl who was slapping it around like a rubber ball. The golden vermilion bird felt like banging its head against the wall. What sin did I commit to meet this demon with the surname Yi? Roar! The golden vermilion bird's complaints were endless. Suddenly, the entire celestial Dharch blood pool resounded with a strange sound that resembled a dragon's roar and a snake's hiss. That sound was ancient and furious, powerful and eerie. Just by hearing this voice, even the powerful ancient vermilion bird felt its heart skip a beat. Fear rose from the depths of its heart. Then, when it saw that the voice didn't come from anywhere else, but from Yi Fei's body, the golden vermilion bird widened its eyes in shock. What was it seeing? It actually saw a terrifying black snake moving the void and roaring at the 9 heavens. It also saw the legendary holy dragon entangling with the terrifying snake. The boundless celestial Thearka's source energy turned into a terrifying dragon's repulse that crazily attacked the void giant snake. However, the enormous void serpent was too cunning and too difficult to kill. Sensing that something was amiss, the enormous void serpent suddenly dissipated and turned into a mysterious serpent silhouette that charged towards the holy dragon. No matter how furious the holy dragon was, in the end, it was only able to destroy a small portion of the serpent silhouettes. The majority of the serpent silhouettes turned back into the void and fused with the holy dragon. Finally, what appeared behind Yi Fei was a strange half-black half-white dragon snake. It coiled around and formed a strange taiji diagram behind Yi Fei. However, in the center of the diagram, the two black and white dots that represented the two extremes turned into a sacred dragon head and an evil snake head. That seems to be the legendary holy dragon spirit and the void snake spirit of the dragon clan? The most sacred and evil spirits in the world actually gathered in one body. What kind of freak is this kid? The golden vermilion bird raised its bare wings and wiped the sweat off its forehead. As the ancient emperor and a proud vermilion bird, even if the golden vermilion bird was forced to submit, it wouldn't think much of a small cultivator like Yi Fei. However, when it saw the half-black half-white dragon snake phenomenon behind it, the golden vermilion bird felt an inexplicable instinctive fear of Yi Fei. This was a very strange and sullen feeling. The ancient Emperor Vermilion Bird was actually afraid of a Divine Lord Jr. No one would believe it if it was told. Even Yi Fei himself didn't know that the bloodline phenomenon he revealed had already suppressed the arrogant golden vermilion bird. After withdrawing his bloodline, Yi Fei revealed a very unhappy expression. My cultivation is still too low. The Celestial Emperor's source energy I absorbed is very limited. This bit of source energy can only allow my bloodline to break through to the peak of the 11th grade. It's still a little bit away from the 12th grade. Yi Fei shook his head helplessly. The golden vermilion bird was speechless when it heard this. It was about to habitually criticize Yi Fei when it recalled the terrifying bloodline phenomenon just now. The golden vermilion bird decided to obediently shut its beak and flew to Yi Fei's shoulder. Yi Fei felt that this was very strange. Senior Vermilion Bird, are you starting to doubt the life of a bird again? The Vermilion Bird clan was mostly arrogant and ruthless. This golden vermilion bird would only become so obedient when it couldn't take Xiao Chao's teasing anymore. Chapter 27-25. The golden vermilion bird's reminder made Yi Fei's expression turn serious. He could ignore other things, but he couldn't ignore the safety of his friends like Di Fan. Furthermore, he had to take revenge for the 3 princes of the ancient countries. Yi Fei immediately rose from the Heaven Emperor blood pool and bowed to the 12 mountains floating in the air. He then sprinted toward the light bridge, not far away from the Heaven Emperor blood pool. The number of light bridges here was much fewer than before, but there were still more than 10 of them. The golden vermilion bird explained, "These light bridges are the different branches of the path of inheritance. Different light bridges can bring you to different trials. Little Yi, you must choose carefully according to your own characteristics and strength." It was extremely humiliating to be slapped around by a little girl like a rubber ball. But between humiliation and its little life, the golden vermilion bird decisively chose the latter. However, this time around, Yi Fei didn't listen to it. Instead, he was extremely meticulous in his analysis of these light bridges. And as he expected, he indeed sensed a unique divine inscription imprint on one of the bridges. This kind of imprint could only be placed by someone who had a deep understanding of divine inscriptions. Coincidentally, the siblings, Bai Shizhong and Bai Yanran, were both extremely powerful grandmasters of spirit augmentation. There was an 80% chance that these imprints were placed by either Bai Shizhong or Bai Yanran. In other words, as long as he passed through this branching bridge, he would be able to meet Bai Shizhong and the others again. Yi Fei didn't hesitate and stepped onto the light bridge. His figure gradually disappeared. At the same time, the battle between the ancient alliance that Si Konghao belonged to and the family Jiwang that Ji Feng commanded was getting more and more intense. Especially Ji Feng. Due to the flaw in his bloodline, Ji Feng, who used the name Mad Dog, wasn't very talented and even had a flaw in his bloodline. If he wasn't careful, he would go completely crazy. Also, it wasn't until Ji Feng's grandfather returned as an ancient god that the family Jiwang knew that the Silver Moon bloodline wasn't a taboo of the ancient race, but a kind of strengthening of the ancient race's bloodline. After returning to the family Jiwang, Ji Feng received the greatest amount of training. His Silver Moon bloodline also shone brilliantly. Although he didn't reach the level of peerless geniuses, he was still able to fight Si Kong Hao to a draw, shocking many spectators. No, the most shocked ones were the princes of the three ancient countries. Wu, the crown prince of Wu country, personally fought with Bai Yanran. Although he relied on the advantage of being the crown prince of the ancient country to break Bai Shizong's sword divine runes, at the crucial moment, Bai Yanran made a move. She also used the ghost god suppressing sky incantation that she had cultivated with great difficulty. The two siblings worked together to fight the crown prince of Wu country, and the crown prince of Wu country couldn't even fight back. Of course, the most eye-catching ones were Fu Renjie and Di Fan. These two geniuses from the earth domain who had never shown their talents in the heaven domain. After entering the ancient sect ruins and cultivating diligently, not only did their bloodline improve greatly, even their superpowers became more and more terrifying. Di Fan was born divine. Even if he didn't have anyone to guide him, as long as he had his own saint fate, Di Fan also had many fortuitous encounters. He even used 3 great void superpowers and defeated the crown prince of Yu country in front of everyone. This caused a sensation and curiosity among many people. They didn't understand why such a natural saint and the demonic youth who could transform into a demonic dragon would be with Yi Fei. It was actually Lu Mohan who issued the order to kill Yi Fei. It could be said that everyone knew about it. There were even rumors that Yi Fei had contradicted Zhang Wangu in front of everyone. Even Zhang Wangu said that the Rising Dragon sect had abandoned Yi Fei. Now the number of cultivators who entered through the light gate became fewer and fewer. There was still no sign of Yi Fei. Many people couldn't help but think that Yi Fei had most likely been plotted against by the crown princes of the 3 ancient countries and died at the checkpoint ahead. It's a pity that such a person could kill the deputy alliance leader of the Han Alliance. He must be someone with great talent. If he could endure for a period of time and give in to Lu Mohan, or give in and apologize to Zhang Wangu for the time being, perhaps he could grow rapidly on this trip to the Great Void. This is fate. Who told this person to not know what's good for him? He thought that he had some ability and went to provoke a peerless genius like Lu Mohan. Even if he dies, it's his own fault. It's a pity that those 2 delicate beauties were also implicated by this person. Once that group of youths is defeated, those 2 fairies' fates will definitely be miserable. On a hillside near the light gate, there were a few cultivators from small factions gathered together. They were drinking and chatting merrily as they recounted their recent experiences. Inevitably, their conversation was overheard by a black-robed youth who walked out of the light gate. On the youth's shoulder stood a listless little red bird. Its head was lowered, as if it was dozing off. It was only when it heard their conversation that it became alert. It opened its bare wings and was about to speak. The black-robed youth had already bent his finger and flicked the little red bird. The little red bird had already turned into a fiery light and burrowed into the black-robed youth's shoulder. The cultivators from the small factions were stunned. They did not know where the bird had been flicked to. Then, they saw the black-robed youth walk over with a very clean smile on his face. He asked, "Senior brothers, I'd like to ask you something. Of the 2 fairies that you mentioned, one is wearing white and the other is wearing red. The one in white looks very gentle, while the one in red has a fiery temper and likes to kick people. A brother you also know? Could it be that you're a kindred spirit? But don't even think about it. Those 2 fairies have already been reserved as maidservants by the 3 crown princes of the ancient kingdoms. Also, Si Kong Hao of the Ancient Alliance has said that he will play with them in front of everyone. Perhaps it was because Yi Fei's smile was too simple and too infectious, but the youths from the small factions talked nonstop about the battles that had occurred over the past few days. The black-robed youth only found out now that the battle between the family Jiwang and the Ancient Alliance had already lasted for several days. During this time, the family Jiwang had been trying to break out of the encirclement, but they had been chased down by the Ancient Alliance and the three ancient kingdoms. I heard that one of them was unfortunately defeated yesterday and has already been captured by the Wu Kingdom's crown prince. The other party has also said that if the family Jiwang does not surrender, they will behead that person in front of everyone today. The youths from the small factions spoke of the latest news. Although they did not have the qualifications to watch the battle, they were constantly inquiring about the situation over there. Furthermore, the matter of the Ancient Alliance and the three ancient kingdoms targeting the family Jiwang made many cultivators realize that it was not enough to just rely on a few good friends to train together in the Great Void. If they wanted to live longer and not be bullied by those large factions, they had to band together and form various alliances. Chapter 27-26. Senior brothers, I appreciate your kind intentions, but I already have companions. I want to meet them now, the black-robed youth rejected politely. In that case, we won't force you. If there are any conflicts in the future, I hope that you can hold back. By the way, may I know your name? Yi Fei. After the black-robed youth finished speaking, he took large strides and rushed in a certain direction, leaving behind a few young Sir-Gods from small factions who looked at each other. Yi Fei? Why does this name sound so familiar? Wait, Yi Fei. Boom. Ru. At the same time, a clap of thunder exploded above their heads. The few young divine monarchs looked at the disappearing black-robed figure with incomparable shock. Even if they were beaten to death, they would never have thought that not only did Yi Fei not fall under the plot of the three crown princes of the ancient kingdoms, he even managed to rush over in time to seek revenge from them. Only yes, on this path of inheritance where bloodlines, treasures, and Sky Emperor superpowers could not be used, could Yi Fei fight against the hundreds of people from the three ancient kingdoms and the ancient alliance by himself? These young Sir-Gods could not help but have doubts in their hearts. But there was no use in having doubts. Yi Fei had already rushed in the direction of the three ancient kingdoms with rage. It was very easy to find them. He just had to let Xiao Qiao sense where the spiritual energy fluctuation was the strongest. Yi Fei did not know that while he was on his way, Di Fan, Fu Renjie, Ji Feng and the others had already been cornered by the three ancient nations and the ancient alliance. They had been cornered by the three ancient nations and the ancient alliance. Some of the youths from the family Jiwang were even seriously injured. However, the most unlucky one was Wu Yu. As he had mocked Si Konghao had taken special care of him and ordered the people of the ancient alliance to capture him alive. However, Si Konghao didn't plan to kill Wu Yu just like that. Instead, he ordered his men to take Wu Yu to the foot of the mountain where Di Fan and the others were. Di Fan and the others' faces changed. Chu Ling's body was filled with anger. After all, she and Wu Yu were both from the Rising Dragon sect. Their relationship was the best. Wu Yu was captured because he was protecting her. Chu Ling felt very uncomfortable. No, I have to save Wu Yu. No, Chu Ling, you can't go down. Their goal is to force us down the mountain. We can't be fooled. By when they were on the mountain, Bai Yanran and Bai Shizhong were still able to calmly attach their spirit to the mountain peak and lay down a divine inscription grand formation. This was the reason why they were able to block the attacks of the three great ancient empires. However, the moment they were forced to leave the mountain, they would be in a completely passive position. Chu, although Ling lacked experience, she understood that what Bai Yanran said was the truth. Her expression immediately became dejected. It's all because of my lack of experience. I've dragged you guys down. Now that Wu Yu is captured, are we going to leave him to die? Of course we have to save him. However, we have fewer people compared to them. If we rush down rashly, not only will we not be able to save Wu Yu, we will also be trapped. However, we can quickly recover from our injuries. When our injuries are healed, we can go down and fight them to the death. The one who spoke was Fu Renjie. He had used the body of a devil dragon to fight. Although he had suffered dozens of injuries, his battle intent was still strong. Di Fan and Ji Feng were also heavily injured. However, it was because of their desperate battle that they were able to protect Bai Shizhong and his sister. They were able to find this mountain peak and lay down a divine inscription grand formation. This also bought them some time to save their lives. However, because of this, all of them were trapped here. Bai Shizhong couldn't help but sigh. If only Yi Fei was here. Although that guy's face is repulsive, I want to kill him every time I see him. However, when it comes to the heart of martial arts, we can't compare to him. Hearing this, Di Fan, Ji Feng, and Fu Renjie all fell silent. Chu Ling and Bai Yanran's eyes also became gloomy. After waiting for so long, there was still no news of Yi Fei. Could it be that Yi Fei really couldn't pass the test of the Golden Gate and had already died? At the foot of the mountain, after shouting for a long time, there was still no one coming down. Si Kong Hao's expression became increasingly ugly. This time, he targeted the family Jiwang not only because of his dissatisfaction with Ji Feng, but also because of Duanmu Kai's secret instructions. By it was Ji Feng's action to lead the family Jiwang to leave the ancient alliance. This action was very damaging to Duanmu Kai's reputation. If there was a chance, Duanmu Kai wouldn't mind killing Ji Feng as an example to others. By what Si Kong Hao hadn't expected was that there were actually two extremely powerful spiritual augmentation grandmasters in this group. Not only could they attach to the entire mountain, but they could also set up a divine rune-killing formation in an extremely short time. As a result, the battle had entered a stalemate. Even the threat of Wu Yu, who they had captured, couldn't lure them down the mountain. Si Kong Hao's expression instantly became incomparably ugly. The Crown Prince of Wu Country also said angrily, "Since this person is useless, we might as well just kill him." Wait, this person is not only Yi Fei's good friend, but he also killed many of our people when he broke out of the encirclement. Killing him like this would be letting him off too easily. I have a good idea. Who the Crown Prince of Yu Country walked towards Wu Yu and suddenly revealed a warm smile. Since you're also from one of the 9 great sects, this Crown Prince will give you a chance to live. If you're willing to crawl under my legs, this Crown Prince will spare your life. How about it? Wu Country. The eyes of the Crown Prince and the Crown Prince of the Han State lit up as they laughed in unison. I've long heard that Yemo once made a bet in the Xiannu sect. Whoever loses will crawl under the other party's feet. Now that Yemo is dead, he can't bear the humiliation of our feet, so let his friends bear it, it's the same. Lowly Wu Yu, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and kneel down, crawl under our feet, remember, it's everyone. Ha 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 ha. Immediately, the warriors of the 3 great ancient countries and the ancient alliance laughed arrogantly. Although it was a pity that they couldn't personally kill Yi Fei, being able to let a disciple of the Rising Dragon sect suffer the humiliation of crawling under their legs was something they could brag about for the rest of their lives. On the mountain, Di Fan and the others who heard this all changed their expressions. Chu Ling looked worriedly at Wu Yu, who was at the foot of the mountain. Coincidentally, she saw that Wu Yu's face was bruised and swollen, but he still revealed his usual vulgar and despicable smile. Don't worry, although I, Wu Yu, am sometimes greedy for life and afraid of death, I can still distinguish right from wrong. I, Wu Yu, will never do 2 things in my life. The first is to betray my friends, and the second is to kneel and surrender. That is the humiliation of men, and also the humiliation of me, Wu Yu. Kill. Although his cultivation had been sealed and his body was bruised, Wu Yu was filled with fighting spirit and killing intent. He directly charged towards the crown prince of Yu country who wanted to humiliate him. For Zhou Yu's wild laughter came to an abrupt halt. Many people looked at Wu Yu in disbelief. Even Yu country's crown prince's face was filled with shock. Is it worth it to lose your life for an unrelated person? Chapter 27. Boom. Wu Yue kicked Yu country's crown prince's crotch. His movement was still obscene, but his aura was fundamentally different. Even Si Konghao was shocked. Then, he shook his head coldly. But unfortunately, it's still an egg against a rock. Bang! Wu Yue's foot kicked Yu country's crown prince, but he didn't move at all. His face was ferocious and cold. A lowly commoner dares to defy your superiors and go against this crown prince. How sad and laughable! Since you refuse to crawl under this crown prince's crotch, this crown prince will make you crawl under. Yu country's palms suddenly pressed down on Wu Yu's head, forcing him to kneel in front of him. However, Wu Yu didn't kneel. Instead, he roared angrily. He would rather break his own neck and commit suicide than endure such humiliation. At the same time, a mouthful of thick blood sprayed onto Yu country's crown prince's face like an arrow. This Yue country's crown prince, who had always been a bit of a clean freak, instantly flew into a rage. Not only did he kick Wu Yu until he vomited blood, but he also condensed a blood-colored spear out of thin air and pointed it at Wu Yu coldly. Say Yi Fei is trash, a lowly commoner. Then obediently crawl under this crown prince's crotch. Otherwise, this crown prince won't kill you, but I'll kill this green dragon first. Roar! Roar! The green dragon roared as it was tied up by the Yu nation's warriors with Xian energy and dragged up. When it saw Wu Yu vomiting blood, the green dragon instantly went berserk. However, just like Wu Yu, the green dragon's cultivation was also sealed. No matter how it struggled, it was unable to help Wu Yu. Then, a few swords stabbed into the little green dragon's body, causing it to cry out in pain. Enough. What's your goal? Why torture a young dragon? Mountain on the peak Di Fan Fu Renjie Ji Feng by Shizhong, by Yanran, Chu Ling, and all the other family Jiwang youths who could still move were completely enraged by Yu country's crown prince's vicious methods. They were so enraged that they gave up on trying to heal themselves, and gave up on holding the fort. Instead, they unleashed their power and once again charged down the mountain. Everyone, stop. Don't come down. If you come down, I'll die in front of you. Wu Yu, who had been kicked down, suddenly jumped up like a spring. He was full of bruises. Not only was his face swollen, even the corner of his mouth was bleeding. But only Wu Yu's eyes were filled with determination. He shouted loudly, I can die, but I can't let you die with me. Go back and recuperate. I, Wu Yue, believe that Yi Fei won't die so easily. He will definitely avenge me. Also, Yi Fei isn't trash. He's my brother. My brother is indomitable. Wu Yu's eyes turned red as he let out a roar. Suddenly, he pounced towards the ancient country warriors who were abusing his battle pet. This greatly shocked the crown princes of the three ancient countries. They felt that the rumored cowardly Wu Yue had gone completely insane. He actually said such words and did such a crazy thing? You always show off your courage in the heat of the moment. Forget it, since you want to die, this crown prince will fulfill your wish. The crown prince of Yu country originally wanted to humiliate Wu Yu to anger Di Fan and the others so that they would go down the mountain to fight. However, Wu Yu's ignorance finally angered the crown prince of Yu country. The blood-colored spear in his hand was already emitting a divine light. He was about to nail Wu Yu to the ground. Wu Yu! Di Fan, Fu Renjie, and the others, who were rushing down the mountain, all had red eyes. Bai Yanran and Chu Ling also couldn't help but cry. Usually, Wu Yu gave them the impression that he was a little obscene and a little lecherous. But at this moment, Wu Yu was indomitable and full of the pride of a man. Unfortunately, they were too far away from Wu Yu. They could only watch as the crown prince of Yu country raised his blood-colored spear and stabbed out. Wu Yu's eyes couldn't help but flash with fear and reluctance. But in the end it turned into pride. I, Wu Yu, never thought that I, Wu Yu, would have such a brave moment. Tell my brother that I didn't embarrass him. Boom. Ka. The blood-colored spear stabbed out, but it didn't hit Wu Yu. At the critical moment, the figure of a black-robed youth suddenly blocked in front of him. He even grabbed the head of the blood-colored spear with his bare hands. Wu Yu. Wu Yu's eyes widened in shock. Am I dead? But it's good that I'm dead. At least I can still see my brother. No, Wu Yu, you're not dead. With me here, no one can kill you. With one hand holding the blood-colored spear, Yi Fei's other hand suddenly condensed a sword finger. He fiercely pointed to the left. A destructive sword storm had already engulfed the heavens and earth. In an instant, all the ancient country warriors who were controlling the little green dragon were turned into a bloody mist, causing the surroundings to seem like it was raining blood. Only then did Wu Yu suddenly wake up. He shouted with incomparable excitement, Yi Fei, it's really you. I knew it wouldn't be easy for you. As the saying goes, good people don't live long, but disasters live for 1,000 years. Yi Fei's face darkened. Why did it feel like Wu Yu wasn't praising him, but scolding him? However, when he saw that Wu Yu's face was clearly bruised and swollen, and his eyes were almost unable to open, but seeing him appear safely and still able to smile so happily, Yi Fei couldn't help but flash through his heart. He was moved. Previously you fought for me, but now it's my turn to fight for you. Tell me, how do you want them to die? Yi Fei turned his head again and stared coldly at the three princes of the ancient countries. The faces of the Crown Prince of Yu, the Crown Prince of Wu, and the Crown Prince of Han immediately revealed extreme fear and disbelief. The one who had appeared was actually Yi Fei. How was this possible? Before they left, they had clearly seen Yi Fei being forced into the golden door. This was a golden door that only peerless geniuses could pass through. Yi Fei was clearly not a peerless genius, but not only did he have the courage to enter, he actually came out unscathed? Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. It's fake, you must be fake. The Crown Prince of Yu couldn't bear it the most. His strongest attack had actually been caught by Yi Fei with his bare hands. The moment he reacted, the Crown Prince of Yu had already condensed more than a dozen blood-colored spears and furiously attacked Yi Fei. However, Yi Fei didn't even look at him. He only turned his head and looked at Wu Yu. Brother, how do you want him to die? Wu Yu narrowed his eyes and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. They want me to take your place and suffer the humiliation of being beneath you. Just now, they even wanted to use their spears to nail me and Xiaolong to death. I don't want anything else, I just want them to be like me. Chapter 27-28. What? Asking the crown princes of the three ancient kingdoms to kneel on the ground and wait for their deaths? Did they hear it wrong? Want? Over 100 young divine monarchs from the three ancient kingdoms were gathered here. Among them, the crown princes were the ancient kingdom's heaven's prides who had passed through the silver door. Even though not counting the ancient kingdoms, just the ancient alliance led by Si Konghao was already an incomparably powerful force. Now Yi Fei was only one person. He actually said that he wanted the crown princes of the three ancient kingdoms to kneel on the ground? Ridiculous. Ignorant. Si Konghao's expression was cold. He looked down on Yi Fei. After all, he was the strongest heaven's pride of the Si Konghao clan. Apart from his bloodline, Si Konghao was not inferior to the 8 heavens' prides. He only lacked some luck. The 3 crown princes of the ancient kingdoms had the same thought as Si Konghao. When they heard Yi Fei's words, they were first frightened, then enraged. After the crown prince of the Moon Kingdom attacked, the crown prince of the Wu Kingdom and the crown prince of the Han Kingdom also attacked in anger. The crown prince of the Wu Kingdom mocked, "Yimo, there are so many of us. We aren't even afraid of alone heaven's pride. Do you think we will be afraid of you? I don't need you to be afraid. I just need to return everything you did to my brother. Kill. The blood-colored spear in his hand suddenly collapsed. A layer of terrifying blood-colored sword light had already spread out from Yifei's body. This sword light was so terrifying that it had a peculiar rhythm and a terrifying killing intent. Boom. Most later, this sword light turned into a huge Taiji sword diagram. It cut through the void and shattered the stars. The Crown Prince of the Moon Kingdom was shocked to see that all the blood-colored spears he had sent out were actually suppressed by the Taiji sword diagram. Then, a deathly sword mountain condensed in the void and ruthlessly pressed down on him. Sword. The dark clouds of death suddenly appeared in his heart. The Crown Prince of Yu Country suddenly let out a roar. A layer of moonlight actually appeared on his body in an attempt to block the terrifying sword light. However, the sword light was too terrifying. It was a sword of destruction and also a sword of calamity. With one sword, Yifei had already suppressed the Crown Prince of Yu Country. The whistling sword mountain was like a mountain that pressed down on the Crown Prince of Yu Country. The Crown Prince of Yu Country could only let out a humiliated roar as he knelt down in front of Yifei with a plop. Only in just a single move, the dignified Crown Prince of an ancient country had been forced to his knees, unable to resist at all. The martial artists of the Moon Empire were in an uproar. The Crown Princes of the Wu Empire and Han Empire revealed deep fear in their eyes. Bloodline. You can actually use your bloodline. It had to be known that on this path of inheritance, one couldn't use their bloodline, treasures, or Heavenly Emperor's divine abilities unless they could find a way to undo the ancient god's seal on their bodies on this path. The Crown Prince of Wu Empire and the Crown Prince of Han Empire never expected that they would force Yifei into the Golden Door to die. In the end, not only did they fail to kill Yifei, but they also allowed Yifei to successfully pass the trial of the Golden Door and undo the bloodline seal in his body. The Crown Prince of Yu Country was so angry that he almost vomited blood. At this moment, he didn't even look at the life and death of the Crown Prince of Yu Country. Facing Yifei, who had unsealed his bloodline, the two Crown Princes had already turned around and fled at their fastest speed. You guys actually abandoned me. The Crown Prince of Yu Country knelt on the ground alone. His eyes were about to pop out of their socket. His heart was filled with rage and despair. But then, he saw that Yifei, who had suppressed him, had no intention of killing him. Instead, the moment the two Crown Princes were about to escape, he had already activated his spatial divine ability. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the Crown Prince of Han Empire. Boom! Again. It was a sword mountain that rose from the ground. Yifei sent it smashing towards the Crown Prince of Han Empire. At the same time, Yifei's eyes flashed with a golden divine light. The sacred dragon's eyes space froze. At the same time, it attacked the Crown Prince of Han Empire. At the same time, it froze the fleeing Crown Prince of Wu Empire in the air. The Crown Prince of Wu Empire and the Crown Prince of Han Empire both revealed expressions of immense fear. Save me, Si Konghao, save, shut up. I, Si Konghao, am not someone from your ancient empire. How can I be ordered around by you? Goodbye. Si Konghao's expression changed. Yifei's forceful suppression of the three Crown Princes had thoroughly frightened him. At this time, the instant the three Crown Princes were suppressed, Si Konghao had already fled. He didn't have the slightest intention of attacking. The martial artists of the three ancient empires were the same. When they discovered that not only had Yifei passed through the Golden Door, but he had also unsealed his bloodline, no one dared to attack Yifei. Instead, they all retreated, rapidly fleeing. This scene finally infuriated the Crown Prince of Wu Empire and the Crown Prince of Han Empire. They spat out mouthfuls of blood, their faces filled with despair. The Crown Prince of Yu Empire looked at Yifei with an incomparably fearful gaze. He begged, "Young Master Yi, spare me. I'm willing to hand over everything I have to apologize. That's right. Young Master Yi, we finally know that we were wrong. Opposing you was the Crown Prince of Wu Empire's idea. I beg you, spare me. The Crown Prince of Han Empire suddenly began to cry, hoping to use his own pitifulness to gain sympathy. Only the Crown Prince of Wu Empire was a bit more unyielding. He sneered and said, "Yemo, I admit that I underestimated you. But you shouldn't underestimate our three ancient empires. For this trip to the Great Void, our three ancient empires have all sent their ancient emperors. If you dare to kill us here, once you leave, you will have to bear, boom." Zhen, the sword mountain that was pressing down on the Crown Prince of Wu Empire, suddenly fell and turned into a huge divine sword. The sword's blade directly nailed the Crown Prince of Wu Empire to the ground from head to toe. The Crown Prince of Han Empire and the Crown Prince of Yu Empire were also nailed to the ground. Even until their deaths, they did not dare to believe that Yi Fei would really dare to ignore the threat of the ancient empires and forcefully kill them. Furthermore, he used such a humiliating method. The ancient empires will not let you off. Wu Empire. The Crown Prince's eyes were filled with despair and malevolence. There was even a trace of regret. If he had not put on the airs of a Crown Prince and threatened Yi Fei, and had instead lowered his head and begged for mercy, perhaps he would not have died like this? But the Crown Prince of Wu Empire did not know that even if he lowered his head and begged for mercy, Yi Fei would still not let them off. This was not Yi Fei being cold-blooded, but he could not forgive everything that the three crown princes of the ancient empires had done. In order to curry favor with Lu Mohan, they had chased him into the Golden Door. In order to seize the opportunity in the Great Void, they had chased after Di Fan and the others. What Yi Fei could not tolerate the most was that not only had they beaten up Wu Yu, but they had also humiliated Wu Yu. Of course, what Yi Fei was truly furious about was that the three crown princes of the ancient empires should not have had any designs on by Yanran and Chu Ling. If he had not come in time, not only would Wu Yu have died, but even Bai Yanran and Chu Ling would have been humiliated. Chapter 27-29. The crown princes of the three ancient kingdoms are dead. Furthermore, they were all killed by him in one move? Could it be that this guy has already transformed into a peerless genius? Not far from the mountain peak, a few young Sir-gods from small factions were clustered around. They were the ones who had given Yi Fei directions back then. When they saw that Yi Fei had dared to barge in here alone to save people, they were all worried for Yi Fei. They felt that Yi Fei's trip this time was no different from suicide. However, the outcome had shocked them. Yi Fei, who they thought was bound to die, had not only survived, but had also killed the three crown princes in front of everyone. He had even scared the deputy alliance leader of the ancient alliance into fleeing. This battle record was shocking. Even Di Fan and the others were shocked. Ji Feng couldn't help but ask, "Yi Fei, have you transformed into a peerless genius after entering the Golden Door?" "If I were a peerless genius, I wouldn't have let Si Konghao escape." Yi Fei smiled bitterly and shook his head. His eyes were filled with regret and coldness. Some of the family Jiwang youths who heard this were so frightened that their faces turned pale. Could it be that killing the crown princes of the three ancient kingdoms wasn't enough for you? You want to kill Si Konghao as well? Si Konghao not only targeted you, he even insulted you. Just based on this point alone, even if he was a peerless genius, I wouldn't mind sending him on his way if I had the chance, let alone the deputy alliance leader of the ancient alliance. Yi Fei's tone was cold. Bai Yanran and Chu Ling felt warmth in their hearts when they heard this. They knew that Yi Fei was so angry because of them. Bai Yanran's gaze softened again. Chu Ling, who had always been violent, looked at Yi Fei nervously. "Yi Fei, your hand is injured." Although Yi Fei had caught the crown prince's blood-red spear with his bare hands, he still suffered some superficial wounds. Bai Yanran quickly took out a pill and forced it into Yi Fei's mouth without any explanation. Bai Shizhong, who was beside them, suddenly had the urge to raise his sword and slash someone. Wu Yue's eyes were red with envy. Cough. Wu Yu coughed with all his might. Miss Yanran, you can't favor one over the other. Yi Fei only suffered some superficial wounds, but I'm seriously injured and on the verge of death. I can't take it anymore, my heart hurts so much. If there isn't a beauty feeding me pills, I think I might die. Don't worry, you won't die. It's just pills. Don't worry, I have plenty of them. I'll feed you as much as you want. Bai Shizhong sneered and suddenly took out a bunch of pills. Without any explanation, he stuffed them into Wu Yue's mouth. Poor Wu Yue had just been seriously injured and did not have much resistance. His mouth was filled with the taste of pills. His heart was filled with grief and indignation. Why is it that Yi Fei has a beauty to care for him when he's injured, but I have to be humiliated and abused by a rough man when I'm injured? Wu Yue was very indignant. Listen. When they heard Wu Yue's words, other than Bai Yanran and Chu Ling, who blushed slightly and were a little embarrassed, everyone else felt a chill run down their spines. Especially Bai Shizhong, who was in the middle of humiliating. His hand trembled and the entire bottle of pills was stuffed into Wu Yue's mouth. Wu Yue almost choked to death on the spot. However, these pills were indeed useful. After swallowing them, not only did the superficial wounds on Yi Fei's hand heal, even Wu Yue's seriously injured body recovered rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yi Fei also returned to the mountain with Di Fan and the others, intending to make this place their temporary base for the time being. At the same time, he also told them about how he entered the golden door and unlocked the bloodline seal. When Di Fan heard this, he was very envious. I didn't expect to be able to unlock the bloodline seal after entering the golden door. Unfortunately, we've already missed this opportunity. Caw, it doesn't matter. Even if you miss it once, there's still a second time. You're a pretty good saint child. How about it? Are you interested in becoming the patriarch's disciple? Suddenly, on Yi Fei's shoulder, a small red bird with messy feathers came out. Its wings were bare and looked very strange. Most strange. What was strange was what the little red bird said. It actually wanted to accept Di Fan as its disciple. Hearing this, Di Fan's face darkened. No matter how difficult it was for him, it was impossible for him to accept such a bird as his master. Look. Seeing the sudden appearance of the little red bird, Bai Yanran and Chu Ling were also very surprised. Yi Fei, isn't Blackie the one following you? Why did such a bird suddenly appear? And it's so ugly. Before they could finish speaking, the golden vermilion bird was already enraged. It spat fire from its beak and said, "You women have long hair and short eyes. And you too, all of you are simple-minded and ugly. Back in the days, I was also handsome and charming. If I didn't have 100,000 female birds, I would at least have 80,000. Before I get angry, if you all kneel down and apologize, I'll forgive you all." Di Fan's face darkened even more. Bai Yanran and Chu Ling's beautiful eyes were also filled with anger. This little red bird's mouth was really too vicious. Bai Shizhong had already raised his saber. Fu Renji and Ji Feng's eyes were also filled with murderous intent. They couldn't wait to strangle this little red bird to death. However, before they could do anything, Wu Yue, who was also ugly, had already volunteered to roll up his sleeves and stepped forward. "Don't do anything. I'm the best at dealing with this kind of little red bird that hasn't even grown up yet." "You bastard bird, eat your Grandpa Wu's divine flicking finger." As he spoke, Wu Yue had already flicked his finger and it happened to hit between the little red bird's legs. Such a bloody and violent method almost made Di Fan and the others dumbfounded. Bai Yanran and Chu Ling's faces turned red, and they quickly turned around. Only the little red bird looked at Wu Yue dumbfoundedly and then looked at the little red bird that had just been flicked. Then, a huge wave of anger exploded from the little red bird's body. Yi Fei's back was also covered in a layer of cold sweat. Only Wu Yue didn't feel it at all. He continued to lecture the little red bird. "What? You still dare to be unhappy? Looks like I didn't flick enough." Then, Wu Yue was about to flick his finger again. Seeing this, Yi Fei's whole body was covered in cold sweat. He hurriedly stopped him. "Wu Yue, stop flicking. Senior Vermilion Bird, don't take it to heart. My friend was just joking with you." "What? This is a vermilion bird? What realm is this bald bird at? Is it worthy of being called a senior?" Wu Yue faintly felt that something was wrong. Yi Fei looked at him with incomparable sympathy. He introduced, "This senior vermilion bird is a vermilion bird ancient emperor that I met in the Golden Gate." "Vermilion bird, ancient emperor? Oh my god, I actually flicked the ancient emperors." "Shut up. Die for your ancestor." The golden vermilion bird had only been humiliated 3 times in its life. The first time was when it was suppressed in the Great Void and became an array spirit. The second time was when it was caught by Xiao Chao and became a toy. The third time was when it was flicked by Wu Yue in a place that it shouldn't be flicked. Huge. Chapter 27:30. Although the battle between Yi Fei and the 3 princes of the ancient kingdoms had attracted a lot of attention, it was just a small matter in this space. After all, there were too many experts who had passed the test of the holy region sects and entered this path of legacy. The 9 great sects, the 12 ancient clans, and the various ancient kingdoms, divine dynasties, sects, and academies had all sent their strongest geniuses here to train and cultivate. Be it the 3 ancient kingdoms or the ancient alliance, they are not the strongest here. The strongest here are the 9 great sects. Lu Yuhua from the Blazing Flame sect, Mu Shui from the Myriad Poison sect, and Lu Xinghua from the Heaven Cleaving sect. Currently, the training ground in this space has been jointly guarded by them, and no one is allowed to approach. On the top, after telling each other about their experiences, Di Fan also told Yi Fei about this space. Yi Fei then knew that Di Fan and the rest were trapped here because they were waiting for him, and because this path of legacy was jointly controlled by the Blazing Flame sect, the Myriad Poison sect, and the Heaven Cleaving sect. These 3 sects were all part of the 9 great sects, and were not something that an ordinary alliance or force could contend against. Therefore, when Lu Yuhua said that he wanted to control this path of legacy, no one dared to oppose him. They just went with the flow and silently agreed to this fact. No. Lu Yuhua did not dare to go too far and anger everyone. The condition he gave was that he would release the restrictions and gather everyone to open the bloody battlefield after he finished cultivating a remarkable ability. Listen. Hearing this, Yi Fei frowned. "So you're saying that as long as Lu Yuhua doesn't finish cultivating the divine ability, we won't be able to start the trial and continue on this path of inheritance?" During the conversation just now, Yi Fei did not hide anything and directly told everyone about the Great Void Sky Emperor's legacy. Now that he heard that someone was actually blocking the entrance to the trial and not allowing anyone to participate in the trial, Yi Fei could not help but feel suspicious. No. Even Di Fan and Fu Renjie had serious expressions on their faces. They said together, "Yi Fei, we feel that there's something wrong with Lu Yuhua's actions." That's right. Those who are able to enter this place are all sky prides of their respective regions. It's not difficult for them to cultivate a sacred art. Lu Yuhua has been here for at least 10 days. No matter how strong a great void sacred art is, he should have mastered it by now. However, he has been guarding the entrance and refused to open the blood-red battlefield. We suspect that he might be working with the other 2 parties to buy time, Ji Feng said in a deep voice. By those who had entered this place were all here for the various opportunities on the path of inheritance. The longer they stayed here, the lower their chances of obtaining any opportunities on the ancient path later on. When they were waiting for Yi Fei, they could still tolerate this situation. Now that Yi Fei had not only come out safely, but he had also unsealed his bloodline, there was nothing for them to be afraid of. The golden vermilion bird was even more daring. He said arrogantly, "A bunch of stupid birds. If they dare to block the way, just kill them. The old ancestor does not have the time to waste on a bunch of trash." After all, the golden vermilion bird was still in its spiritual form and did not feel safe. Especially after little birdie was flicked away by Wu Yu, the sense of danger in his heart became even stronger. At this moment, he could not wait for Yi Fei to finish this path of inheritance. Wu Yu looked at Yi Fei with a pitiful expression. His hair had already been made into a bird's nest by the golden vermilion bird. Compared to the golden vermilion bird, Wu Yu wanted to escape from this predicament even more. Zhu the vermilion bird's instigation and his intense curiosity about the great Void Sky Emperor's inheritance finally made Yi Fei come to a decision. He immediately nodded and said, "All right, since no one objects, let's go over and give it a try." There were many opportunities in the Great Void. Not only was it a burial ground for elites, but it was also a stage for elites to rise. Just think about it. Yi Fei had only passed the path of blood refinement once. Not only had he obtained the life and death seal, but his bloodline had also broken through to the 11th level. If he continued to temper himself, Yi Fei believed that he would have a chance to unseal his bloodline once again and reach the 12th grade bloodline. That would be comparable to a peerless elite. At that time, even if I have to face Lu Mohan, I will have the foundation to contend with him. As he thought of this, Yi Fei saw a vast battlefield in the distance. It was like an inverted blood-colored light barrier that covered a third of this space. That was inside was the destination of this trial, the blood-red battlefield. However, at the entrance of the battlefield stood 3 groups of people. They were the young geniuses of the Blazing Flame sect, the Myriad Poison sect, and the Heaven-Cleaving sect. He was sitting cross-legged in front of the stone tablet that led to the battlefield. No one was allowed to come close. When Yi Fei came over, there were already many warriors gathered here. They were angry but did not dare to say anything. "Yi Fei, this is the place. Do we really have to go over?" Bai Yanran and Chu Ling were a little nervous. They rarely participated in such battles. Bai Shizhong immediately stood beside Bai Yanran with a divine sword and said, "Sister, don't worry. I will kill anyone who dares to come close to you." Yi Fei and the others were speechless. The disciples of the 3 major sects who were guarding the stone tablet sneered and shouted coldly, "Who is making a ruckus here? Don't you know the rules here? If you want to enter the blood-colored battlefield, you can wait for our senior brother to finish cultivating his divine power. Then we will invite you in together." "Sorry, I don't have time to wait for you to finish cultivating your divine power. I only know that I want to go in now." Yi Fei took a step forward coldly. Since he knew that the 3 major sects were most likely stalling for time to pave the way for their respective peerless geniuses, Yi Fei naturally would not naively wait outside. While he took a step forward and walked towards the blood-colored battlefield. His action immediately caused an uproar among countless warriors. Then, someone quickly recognized Yi Fei and couldn't help but exclaim, "It's Yi Fei! This person is really a demon. I heard that he killed the crown princes of the 3 major ancient nations in public yesterday. He is so arrogant and despotic. Now, he actually came to provoke the 3 major sections. How arrogant! Yi Fei, is he the one who killed the deputy leader of the Han Alliance, Ouyang Changkong, and went against Lu Mohan? You are lucky that you are not dead. How dare you come here and go against the 3 major sects?" From a temporary stone house near the monument, a handsome youth in embroidered clothes suddenly walked out. He looked to be in his early 20s and was very young. However, his aura was much stronger than many of the young Sir Gods present who were in their 30s. However, the first thing that Yi Fei noticed was not the young man in embroidered clothes, but the 2 men behind the young man. One of the men had golden eyes and his entire body was filled with terrifying oppression. The other man was as evil as a demon. Above his head, there was a terrifying demon cloud that was constantly whistling. Nalan Shuiyao. Yi Fei was a little surprised. He did not expect that these two people had also left the Crimson Moon Divine Dynasty and seemed to have joined the Blazing Fire sect and the Sky Cleaving sect respectively. Chapter 27:31. When they saw Yi Fei, Zhan Feng and Nalan Shuiyao smiled coldly. In the Red Moon Holy Dynasty, they were absolute experts. They would never forget the humiliation of being defeated by Yi Fei in the land of the ancient god. This kind of humiliation made Zhan Feng and Nalan Shuiyao participate in the attack on Qingzhou. However, at that time, Yi Fei's target was Sir God Bai Yun. He did not have the time to kill the two of them. Unexpectedly, the two of them left the Red Moon Holy Dynasty and joined the Blazing Fire sect and the Sky Slashing sect respectively. Yi Fei was very surprised. Then, he noticed the young man in embroidered clothes standing in front of the two of them. "You are Lu Yuhua? How dare you call my brother's name directly? Get out of here. Remember, I am Lu Xiaohua." Lu Xiaohua was very dissatisfied with Yi Fei's misunderstanding. Although he was young, he had a competitive heart. Yi Fei did not want to talk to such a rebellious young man. "Clothes? Liao? Pull out the bones and still be inseparable? Pull out the sleeves? Heart? E? Su? Su? E? 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 Respect me, and I will respect you tenfold." Yi Fei asked nicely, but Lu Xiaohua was rude. Of course, Yi Fei would not be polite. He defanned Ji Feng, and the others looked at each other. Then, they lifted their feet and walked toward the stone tablet of the bloody battlefield. Look! Many warriors who saw this scene were in an uproar. They did not expect that Yi Fei did not care about the three great sects after killing the crown princes of the three great ancient kingdoms. It should be known that these were the three great sects. Any disciple of the three great ancient kingdoms was much stronger than the warriors of the three great ancient kingdoms. How could Yi Fei, a mere few people, be able to shake him? Boom! Several when they heard Yi Fei's words, the martialists from the Ardent Flame sect, the Sky Cleaving sect and the 10,000 Poison sect all sneered and stood up. Anyone who could enter the Great Void had to be an elite of the 9 great sects. Even though they had heard that Yi Fei had killed the crown prince of an ancient nation, they didn't feel the slightest bit of fear. On the contrary, an intense bloodline aura erupted from Lu Xiaohua's body. "Yi Fei, I've heard of you. You're the new dark horse of the Rising Dragon sect. Unfortunately, a dark horse like you only knows how to bully those small ancient kingdoms? Iju Qian? Nazir?" Haggard oval waving letter to Kendall Boom. Lu Xiaohua's bloodline completely erupted. The roaring flames were like torches that lit up the void. The nearby martial artists all revealed shocked and horrified expressions. What's going on? How did Lu Xiaohua unseal his bloodline? It's not just Lu Xiaohua. Zhan Feng and Nalan Shuiyao also have bloodline auras. Yi Fei's expression was serious. He had thought that it would be easy for him to enter the bloody battlefield by relying on his bloodline. He didn't expect that not only would he meet his old enemy here, but he would also discover that many of the martialists from the 3 great sects had unsealed their bloodlines. How did they unseal their bloodlines? Could it be that all of them have passed through the Golden Door? Chu Ling was extremely shocked. Then, she shook her head. The Golden Door was a test specially prepared for the peerless geniuses. Those who weren't peerless geniuses would definitely die if they entered. If so many people had passed through the Golden Door's test at the same time, it would be too shocking. Staring at the stone tablet of the bloody battlefield, Di Fan's eyes narrowed slightly. He said coldly, "They're guarding this stone tablet so nervously. There's only one possibility. They've already entered the bloody battlefield and unsealed their bloodlines through some kind of opportunity. Boom. Fan's words caused an uproar among the martial artists who had heard the news. Only now did they realize that Lu Yuhua's words about cultivating divine powers were fake. She had secretly allowed the martial artists of the three great sects to enter the blood-red battlefield in advance to unlock their bloodlines. This was the real reason. After all, in this space, no one could use their bloodlines. Only the three great sects could. This gave them an absolute advantage. No one could compete with them. Very many of the martialists had angry expressions on their faces. Seeing that Yi Fei and the others had exposed their intentions and angered the crowd, Lu Xiaohua's face instantly became extremely gloomy. He nodded coldly and said, "Indeed, we've already entered the bloody battlefield in advance. However, that was because you were stupid and didn't have the courage to enter. Now we've all unsealed our bloodlines, but you haven't. This is the absolute difference. As for you, I, Lu Xiaohua, will let you see this difference." A boiling killing intent suddenly appeared on Lu Xiaohua's body. It was directed directly at Yi Fei. Many people's expressions changed. In many people's eyes, Yi Fei was able to suppress the crown prince of an ancient country because of his bloodline. Now that Yi Fei's bloodline was no longer advantageous, would he be able to withstand Lu Xiaohua's attack? Interesting. It seems like Lu Xiaohua wants to use Yi Fei as a stepping stone to become famous. In the crowd, Si Konghao also revealed a gloating smile. He had even made up his mind to make a move at the crucial moment. But, at this moment, Zhang Feng and Nailan Shuiyao, who were standing behind, stepped forward at the same time. "Senior Brother Lu, please wait. This Yi Fei is an old friend of ours. We want to send him on his way personally." Boom. Battle. Zhang Feng and Nailan Shuiyao's bodies burned with a special bloodline divine flame at the same time. They stared coldly at Yi Fei. "Yi Fei, back in Qingzhou, you relied on the advantage of the ghostly deity cauldron to force us away by luck. Today, we would like to see what other abilities you have to survive in our hands." Zhang Feng's body emitted a golden light. He activated the Battle King's decree, but it was no longer an immemorial mystique. It was a great void mystique. Its defensive power was no less than Yi Fei's ancient god golden body. Obviously, after leaving the Crimson Moon Holy Court, Zhang Feng had also obtained a great opportunity. On the other side, Nailan Shuiyao's body was filled with demonic aura. It was as if an ancient demon had been revived. He had completely mastered the Demon Emperor scripture in the land of the ancient god. After joining the Sky Slayer sect, he had cultivated an even stronger ancient demon mystique. His demonic aura was even more terrifying. The demonic cloud above his head had turned into a terrifying void demonic beast, roaring loudly. Kill. Battle. Zhang Feng and Nailan Shuiyao moved forward together and attacked Yi Fei. They wanted to wash away the humiliation of being forced away by Yi Fei in Qingzhou. They wanted to step on Yi Fei's corpse and make their names known in front of countless geniuses. Di Fan and the others' faces changed. After all, although Yi Fei's bloodline had been unsealed, Zhang Feng and Nailan Shuiyao were not ordinary people. Not to mention, Lu Xiaohua was not far away and was eyeing them covetously. How could Yi Fei obtain victory in a situation where he was fighting against two opponents alone? Very many warriors who were watching the battle were confused. Bai Yanran and Chu Ling held hands and looked at Yi Fei nervously. They did not know when, but their palms were sweating. However, in such a battle, they could not help at all since they had not unsealed their bloodline. They could only watch as Zhang Feng's golden light and Nailan Shuiyao's demonic aura quickly engulfed Yi Fei. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.